One dance that changed everything. A single father steps into a lavish wedding where he doesn't belong. A captivating young woman crosses social boundaries to invite him to dance. One unexpected moment ignites into something more powerful than either could imagine, completely transforming their futures. This is the story of Noah Carter, an ordinary high school teacher who found love and opportunity in the place he least expected it. Follow this emotional journey to the very end, and don't forget to hit like and leave a comment about what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Noah Carter stood at the edge of the hotel ballroom, like a man who'd accidentally wandered into someone else's dream. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, throwing soft gold light across marble floors so polished he could see his own uncertain reflection staring back. Round tables draped in ivory silk filled the space, each one topped with arrangements of white roses and peonies that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Somewhere near the front, a string quartet played something classical and unfamiliar. He tugged at his tie, a navy blue number he'd owned since college, and wondered, not for the first time that evening, what the hell he was doing here. "Dad, you're fidgeting again." Emma's voice cut through his thoughts. She stood beside him in a pale pink dress they'd found on sale 2 weeks ago, her dark hair pulled back in a braid that made her look older than 8. She had her mother's eyes, wide and brown and capable of seeing right through him. "Sorry, sweetheart." Noah forced his hand down to his side. "Just taking it all in." "It's fancy," Emma said matter-of-factly. "But you look good. You cleaned up nice." He smiled despite himself. "Thanks, Em." The wedding invitation had arrived 3 months ago, forwarded through the school district's internal mail system. "Marcus Webb and Jennifer Cole request the honor of your presence." Marcus had been one of Noah's students 5 years back, a quiet kid who'd struggled with algebra until Noah started staying late twice a week to help him through it. Apparently that had meant something, because when Marcus got engaged to a woman whose father owned half the commercial real estate in the city, Noah's name made the guest list. He almost didn't come. The thought of spending a Saturday evening surrounded by people he didn't know, making small talk he wasn't good at, had nearly been enough to send a polite decline. But Emma had found the invitation on the kitchen counter, and her face had lit up in a way he hadn't seen in months. "A real wedding, Dad. Can we go, please?" So here they were. The ceremony had been beautiful in that formal, slightly impersonal way these things often were. Noah and Emma had sat near the back, watching as Marcus, looking sharp in a tailored tuxedo that fit him like a second skin, exchanged vows with Jennifer, a stunning blonde in a dress that probably cost more than Noah's car. The whole thing had felt like watching a movie, something distant and unreal. Now, in the reception hall, that distance felt even wider. Waiters in crisp white shirts moved through the crowd with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres Noah couldn't pronounce. Guests clustered in groups, laughing and talking in the easy way people do when they all belong to the same world. The men wore expensive suits, the women cocktail dresses that shimmered under the chandelier light. Everyone looked comfortable. Everyone looked like they'd done this 100 times before. Noah had worn his best suit, the charcoal gray one he kept for parent-teacher conferences and funerals, and he still felt like he'd shown up in jeans. "You want to find our table?" he asked Emma. She nodded, and they made their way through the crowd. Their assigned seats were near the middle of the room, table 12, tucked between a group of what looked like Marcus's college friends and an older couple who introduced themselves as Jennifer's aunt and uncle from Connecticut. Everyone was polite. Everyone made the appropriate small talk. But Noah could feel the invisible lines being drawn. Who belonged and who was just visiting. Dinner was served in courses. Some kind of salad with ingredients Noah didn't recognize. A soup that tasted expensive. A main course of beef tenderloin that was, admittedly, the best thing he'd eaten in months. Emma picked at her food, too distracted by the spectacle around her to have much appetite. "Can I have some cake later?" she whispered. "Absolutely," Noah said. "That's the best part of weddings." She grinned. The toast started after dinner. Best man speeches that were equal parts embarrassing stories and heartfelt sentiment. The maid of honor, Jennifer's younger sister, told a story about childhood dreams and fairy tale endings that made half the room tear up. Marcus's father, a broad-shouldered man with silver hair and a voice like gravel, stood and raised his glass. "To my son," he said, his voice carrying across the room. and to the beautiful woman who saw something in him worth keeping. May your lives together be filled with joy, success, and all the things that matter. Everyone drank. Noah lifted his glass of water, he'd passed on the champagne, and took a sip, feeling oddly like an intruder on an intimate family moment. Then the dancing started. The lights dimmed slightly, and the string quartet was replaced by a DJ who knew exactly how to read the room. Marcus and Jennifer took the floor first, moving together in a slow, elegant waltz that looked rehearsed but felt genuine. The crowd watched, smiling and clapping. Then Marcus's parents joined them, followed by Jennifer's, and soon the floor was filling up with couples spinning and swaying in time with the music. Noah stayed seated. "Don't you want to dance, Dad?" Emma asked. He glanced at the floor, at the couples moving together with the kind of ease that came from practice and familiarity. "I'm not much of a dancer, kiddo." "You used to dance with Mom." The words landed soft but heavy. Noah felt something tighten in his chest. He looked at his daughter, at the hopeful curiosity in her eyes, and he knew she didn't mean it as a wound. She was just remembering, just holding on to pieces of a past that felt further away every year. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I did." Sarah had loved to dance. She'd drag him onto the floor at weddings, at parties, even in their living room when a song she liked came on the radio. He'd been terrible at it, stepping on her toes more often than not, but she'd never cared. She'd just laugh and pull him closer and tell him to stop thinking so much. That was 4 years ago, before the accident, before everything changed. "Maybe later," Noah said, forcing a smile. "Let's just watch for now." Emma seemed to accept that, turning her attention back to the dance floor. Noah watched too, but his mind was somewhere else, somewhere quieter. The music shifted, something upbeat and modern that got the younger crowd moving. Noah recognized a few of Marcus's friends from the ceremony, now spinning their dates with the kind of reckless energy that came from too much champagne and not enough inhibition. He smiled despite himself. It was nice seeing people let loose, seeing joy take up space. And then she walked in. Noah didn't notice her at first. He was too busy making sure Emma wasn't getting bored, too focused on planning a polite exit strategy for when the evening started to drag. But something made him glance toward the entrance, maybe a shift in the room's energy, maybe just dumb luck, and that's when he saw her. She was late, or at least later than everyone else, the kind of entrance that didn't need to be loud to be noticed. She moved through this doorway with the kind of confidence Noah associated with people who'd never had to question whether they belonged. Tall, maybe 5'8", with dark hair that fell in loose waves past her shoulders. She wore a dress that was simple but striking, deep emerald green, sleeveless, fitted in a way that suggested elegance rather than trying too hard. Her skin had a warm glow under the chandelier light, and when she smiled at someone near the entrance, it was the kind of smile that reached her eyes. Noah felt something shift in his chest. Not attraction, exactly, or not just that. It was more like recognition, the way you notice someone who seems to occupy space differently than everyone else. She moved through the crowd with ease, stopping to greet people, laughing at something someone said, touching arms and shoulders in the casual way people do when they're comfortable in their own skin. She didn't look rushed. She didn't look nervous. She just looked present. Emma tugged at his sleeve. "Dad, who's that?" "I have no idea," Noah said honestly. The woman made her way toward the center of the room, pausing near the dance floor to watch the couples moving together. She stood alone, but she didn't look lonely, just observing, taking it in. And then, as if she could feel his gaze, she turned. Their eyes met across the crowded ballroom. Noah felt his breath catch. It was one of those ridiculous moments that only happen in movies, the kind where time slows down and the music fades, and nothing else exists except the person looking back at you. Except this was real. This was happening. And she wasn't looking away. She smiled. Not a polite social smile. Something warmer, something curious. Noah's first instinct was to look behind him, to check if she was actually looking at someone else. But there was no one there, just him and Emma, and the uncomfortable truth that this impossibly confident, impossibly beautiful woman was staring directly at him. She started walking. "Dad," Emma whispered. "She's coming over here." "I see that," Noah said, his voice tight. His mind raced. Did he know her? Was she one of Marcus's relatives? Someone from the bride's side? Maybe she was lost, looking for her table. Maybe she was... She stopped in front of him. Up close, she was even more striking. Her eyes were a shade of amber brown that seemed to shift in the light, and there was a small scar just above her left eyebrow that somehow made her more real. She smelled faintly of something floral and expensive. "Hi," she said. Her voice was warm, with a hint of amusement. "I'm Arya." Noah stood up so fast he almost knocked his chair over. "Noah, hi. Yeah, Noah." "Smooth, Carter, real smooth." Arya's smile widened. "Nice to meet you, Noah." She glanced at Emma. "And who's this?" "I'm Emma," his daughter said, suddenly shy. His daughter. "Emma, that's a beautiful name." Arya crouched slightly, bringing herself to Emma's eye level. "Are you having fun?" Emma nodded. "The cake looks really good." "The cake is amazing," Arya said seriously. "I had a bite earlier. Chocolate with raspberry filling, definitely worth the wait." Emma's eyes went wide. "Really?" "Really." Arya stood back up, her attention shifting to Noah. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "No, not at all," Noah said, trying to sound like a functioning adult. "We were just watching, the dancing." "It's nice, isn't it?" Arya glanced at the dance floor, then back at him. "Do you dance?" Noah felt his pulse spike. Not really. Not well, anyway." "That's not what I asked." Her smile turned playful. "I asked if you dance, not if you're good at it." He opened his mouth, closed it, had no idea what to say. Arya tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You look like you could use a break from sitting." "I'm fine, really. Dance with me." It wasn't a question. It was an invitation, clear and direct, and Noah felt the ground shift beneath him. "I don't think that's a good idea," he said, his voice coming out rougher than he intended. "I'm really not—" "Dad," Emma said quietly. "You should." He looked down at his daughter, startled. She was watching him with those big brown eyes, and there was something in her expression that looked almost hopeful. I don't—" "Mom would want you to," Emma said. "She'd tell you to stop being scared." The words hit like a punch to the chest. Not cruel, just true. Arya watched the exchange in silence, her expression softening. When Noah looked back at her, she didn't say anything. She just extended her hand. He stared at it. At the slim fingers, the neatly trimmed nails painted a subtle shade of burgundy. At the simple silver bracelet around her wrist. "One dance," Arya said gently. "If you hate it, you can come right back." Noah felt his heart hammering. Every instinct told him to decline politely, to sit back down and let the moment pass. But Emma was watching, and something in Arya's eyes, something patient and kind and completely undemanding, made him want to say yes. He took her hand. Her fingers were warm against his, and the contact sent a small jolt through him. She didn't pull him toward the floor, she just waited, giving him space to decide. "Okay," Noah said. "One dance." Emma beamed. Arya led him onto the floor with the kind of easy grace that suggested she'd done this 1,000 times. The music had shifted again, something slower now, a ballad with a piano melody that floated over the room. Other couples were already moving together, lost in their own worlds. Noah's hands felt clumsy and too large. He wasn't sure where to put them. "Left hand on my waist," Arya said softly, guiding him. "Right hand in mine." Just like that. He followed her lead, his palms settling against the fabric of her dress. It was strange, touching a stranger like this, intimate in a way that felt both foreign and oddly natural. "Now just move," Arya said. "Don't think. Just feel the music." "I'm going to step on your feet," Noah warned. "Then I'll step on yours back. We'll be even." Despite himself, he laughed. A short, startled sound that seemed to surprise them both. And then they started moving. It wasn't graceful. Noah's steps were hesitant, a half beat behind the rhythm, and he was hyper-aware of every movement, every shift in weight. But Arya didn't seem to mind. She moved with him, adjusting her pace to match his, her body close enough that he could feel the warmth of her through the thin fabric of her dress. "You're doing fine," she said after a moment. "I'm really not." "You're moving. That's all that matters." She looked up at him, her amber eyes catching the light. "How long has it been since you danced?" Noah swallowed. "A while." How long is a while? 4 years, give or take. Something flickered across her face. Understanding, maybe, or sympathy. That's a long time. Yeah. They moved in silence for a few beats, the music swelling around them. Noah became aware of other things, the way Arya's hair smelled faintly of vanilla, the small calluses on her palm that suggested she worked with her hands, the way she didn't fill the silence with empty chatter. Can I ask you something? She said finally. Sure. Why did you come tonight, to this wedding? Noah blinked. Marcus? The groom? He was my student a few years ago. He invited me. That's sweet, but that's not what I meant. Arya's gaze was steady. You don't look like you want to be here. You look like you're counting the minutes until you can leave. So why come at all? He should have been offended, or at least offensive, but there was no judgment in her voice, just curiosity. Emma wanted to, he said honestly. My daughter. She saw the invitation and got excited. I couldn't say no. So you're here for her? Yeah. Arya smiled. That's a good reason. They turned slightly and Noah caught a glimpse of their table. Emma was watching them, her face lit up with something that looked almost like pride. He felt his chest tighten. She's a great kid, Arya said, following his gaze. You can tell. She is. Better than I deserve most days. I doubt that. Noah looked at her. You don't know me. No, Arya agreed, but I'm getting there. The song shifted into its final chorus, and Noah realized with a strange mix of relief and disappointment that their dance was almost over. Part of him wanted to step off the floor immediately, to retreat back to the safety of his chair, but another part, a part he hadn't listened to in years, wanted to keep moving. You're a teacher? Arya asked. High school. Math and physics. Do you like it? Most days. The kids can be tough, but... Trailed off, searching for words. It feels like it matters, what I do, even when it's hard. That's important, Arya said, doing work that matters. What about you? What do you do? Her smile turned slightly mysterious. I solve problems, connect people, make things happen that wouldn't happen otherwise. That's vague. I know. She didn't elaborate. The music ended. The couples around them began to separate, clapping politely for the band. Noah felt Arya's hand slip from his, and the absence of her warmth was startling. Thank you, she said, for the dance. I should be thanking you. You took a risk asking me. I could have been awful. You weren't awful. You were nervous. There's a difference. She held his gaze for a moment longer. It was nice meeting you, Noah Carter. You too, Arya. He realized he didn't know her last name. Bennett, she supplied. Arya Bennett. She turned to leave, but Noah heard himself speak before he could stop it. Wait. She paused, glancing back. How did you know? He asked. My last name. I didn't tell you. Arya's smile turned playful again. I pay attention. She nodded toward the seating cards on the table behind him. Your name tag is showing. Noah glanced down and felt his face heat. Sure enough, the small place card with Noah Carter printed in elegant script was clearly visible. Right, he muttered. Of course. Enjoy the rest of your evening, Arya said. And then she was gone, disappearing back into the crowd with the same easy confidence she'd arrived with. Noah stood there for a moment, feeling oddly unmoored. Then he made his way back to the table where Emma was practically vibrating with excitement. Dad, you danced! I did, he admitted, sitting down heavily. She was really pretty and nice. Did you like her? Noah picked up his water glass, buying himself time. She was interesting. Are you going to talk to her again? I don't know, Em. Probably not. She's way out of my league. Emma frowned. What does that mean? It means she's the kind of person who fits in places like this, and I'm not. But she asked you to dance, Emma pointed out, so maybe she doesn't care about that stuff. Noah looked at his daughter, at the stubborn set of her jaw that reminded him so much of Sarah. Maybe. The rest of the reception passed in a blur. The cake was served, 3 towering tiers of chocolate and raspberry that tasted even better than it looked. Emma got her slice and declared it the best thing she'd ever eaten. Guests continued to dance and drink and celebrate. Noah caught glimpses of Arya throughout the evening, talking with the bride's family, laughing with a group near the bar, always moving, always present, but she didn't come back to their table. He told himself he wasn't disappointed. Around 9:30, Emma started yawning. Noah took that as their cue to leave. They said their goodbyes to Marcus, who pulled Noah into a hug and thanked him again for coming. "It meant a lot, Mr. Carter," Marcus said, "having you here. You changed my life back in high school. I wouldn't be where I am without you." Noah felt a lump in his throat. "You did the work, Marcus. I just showed you the way." "Still, thank you." They made their way out of the ballroom and through the hotel's grand lobby. Outside, the night air was cool and refreshing after the warmth of the reception hall. Noah took a deep breath, feeling some of the tension drain from his shoulders. "That was fun," Emma said as they walked toward the parking garage. "Yeah? You had a good time?" "The best." She was quiet for a moment. "Dad? Yeah? I'm glad you danced, even if it was scary." Noah stopped walking. He crouched down to Emma's level, looking into those brown eyes that had seen too much loss for someone so young. "Me too, sweetheart," he said softly. "Me too." They drove home through quiet streets, Emma falling asleep in the back seat before they'd even made it out of downtown. Noah carried her up to their apartment, a modest two-bedroom in a complex that had seen better days but was clean and safe. He got her into bed, still in her pink dress, and pulled the covers up to her chin. She stirred slightly. "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, Em." Back in his own room, Noah changed out of his suit and into sweatpants and an old t-shirt. He sat on the edge of his bed, suddenly exhausted. The events of the evening played back through his mind on a loop. The elegant ballroom, the expensive dinner, the moment when Arya had turned and looked at him across the crowd. "Dance with me." He could still feel the phantom warmth of her hand in his, the way her body had moved against his as they'd swayed to the music. It had been terrifying. It had been awkward. And it had been the first time in 4 years he'd felt something other than grief or exhaustion. Noah's phone buzzed on his nightstand. He picked it up, expecting a message from one of the other teachers about Monday's staff meeting. Instead, it was a Facebook notification, a friend request, from Arya Bennett. His heart kicked against his ribs. He stared at the screen, at the small profile picture showing Arya in casual clothes, laughing at something off camera. Her profile was mostly private, but he could see that she worked for something called Bennett Strategic Consulting and had gone to Columbia. He should ignore it. That would be the smart thing to do. This woman was clearly out of his league, living in a world he barely understood. One dance didn't mean anything. It was just a nice moment at a wedding, nothing more. But his finger was already moving, tapping the accept button before his brain could catch up. A message appeared immediately. Arya. "Hi. I hope this isn't too forward. I realized after we finished dancing that I didn't get a chance to really talk to you. Would you be open to grabbing coffee sometime? No pressure, just conversation." Noah stared at the message for a full minute, then another. His hands felt sweaty. This didn't make sense. Women like Arya didn't message high school teachers at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night asking them to coffee. They didn't cross social boundaries like that. They didn't look twice at guys in off-the-rack suits who couldn't dance. He typed out 3 different responses and deleted them all. Finally, he settled on, "Sure. When works for you." He hit send before he could second-guess himself. 3 dots appeared immediately, indicating she was typing. Arya. "Tomorrow? There's a place called Rowan's on 5th Street. 1 o'clock? Noah knew Rowan's. It was one of those trendy coffee shops with exposed brick and artisanal everything. He'd never been inside. Noah. "I'll be there." Arya. "Perfect. Looking forward to it." "And Noah?" Noah. "Yeah?" Arya. "You're a better dancer than you think." He set his phone down, his pulse racing. Then he picked it back up and read the exchange again, making sure it was real. It was real. Noah lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow was Sunday. He'd need to find someone to watch Emma for a couple hours. Maybe Mrs. Patterson from down the hall. She loved Emma and was always offering to babysit. He'd need to figure out what to wear. Something casual, but not too casual. He'd need to... He was getting ahead of himself. This was just coffee. Just conversation. Arya had probably invited dozens of people to coffee. It didn't mean anything. except his hands were still shaking slightly, and he couldn't stop the small smile that kept tugging at his lips. 4 years. 4 years of going through the motions, of waking up and getting Emma to school, and teaching his classes and coming home and doing it all over again. 4 years of telling himself that this was enough, that he didn't need anything more than being a good father and a decent teacher. One dance had cracked something open. Noah closed his eyes, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, he fell asleep thinking about tomorrow instead of yesterday. Noah arrived at Rowan's 15 minutes early, which gave him just enough time to circle the block twice and talk himself out of leaving 3 separate times. The coffee shop sat on a corner lot with floor-to-ceiling windows that let passers-by see everything happening inside. Exposed brick walls, Edison bulbs hanging from black cords, mismatched wooden furniture that somehow looked intentional. The kind of place where a regular coffee costs $6 and people actually paid it. He'd changed his shirt 4 times before leaving the apartment. Settled on a dark blue Henley that Emma said made him look less like a teacher and more like a normal person, which he chose to take as a compliment. Dark jeans, his least worn sneakers. He'd even tried to do something with his hair, though it had mostly resulted in the same slightly messy look he always had. Mrs. Patterson had been delighted to watch Emma for a few hours, waving off his offers of payment with a dismissive hand. "Go have fun," she'd said, giving him a knowing look that made him want to explain this wasn't a date, just coffee, nothing serious. But Emma had already dragged her inside to show her the new drawing she'd made, and the moment passed. Now, standing outside Rowan's watching well-dressed people sip lattes and type on laptops, Noah felt the familiar weight of not belonging settle over his shoulders. His phone buzzed. "Arya. Running about 5 minutes late. Go ahead and grab a table. I'll find you." Relief and disappointment hit simultaneously. 5 more minutes to prepare. 5 more minutes to spiral. He pushed through the door. A bell chimed softly. The smell of fresh ground coffee and something sweet, cinnamon rolls maybe, washed over him. The space was busy but not packed, mostly couples and small groups scattered among the tables. A barista with purple hair and multiple piercings looked up from the espresso machine. "What can I get started for you?" Noah approached the counter, scanning the menu board behind her. Half the items were in what looked like Italian. The other half might as well have been. "Just a regular coffee, please. Medium." The barista's expression suggested he'd just ordered water at a wine tasting. "We have a seasonal blend right now. Single origin from Guatemala, notes of dark chocolate and cherry. Or there's the house roast, which is more balanced, caramel and nuts." "The house roast is fine. Room for cream?" "Yes, please." She rang him up, $6.50 for a coffee. Noah handed over a 10 and tried not to wince. He found a table near the window, far enough from the counter to have some privacy, but not so tucked away that Arya would have trouble spotting him. The chair wobbled slightly when he sat down. He tested his coffee, hot, strong, actually pretty good, and checked his phone for the 3rd time in as many minutes. 1:05. She was officially late now. Maybe she'd changed her mind. Maybe last night's message had been sent on impulse, something she regretted in the clear light of day. Maybe... The bell chimed. Arya walked in, and Noah felt his breath catch the same way it had at the wedding. She looked different in daylight, less formal but no less striking. Dark jeans that fit like they'd been tailored specifically for her, a cream-colored sweater that looked soft and expensive, leather jacket slung over one arm. Her hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail, and she wore minimal makeup. Somehow she managed to look both casual and put together in a way Noah had never mastered. She spotted him immediately and smiled. "Sorry I'm late," she said, sliding into the chair across from him. "Client call ran over." "It's fine. I just got here." A lie, but a small one. "I'm going to grab something. Do you need anything?" "I'm good. Thanks." She disappeared to the counter, and Noah used the 30 seconds to try to calm his racing pulse. This was just coffee, just conversation. Nothing to be nervous about. Arya returned with something that looked more like a dessert than a drink. Layers of espresso and foam and what might have been caramel. She settled into her chair and wrapped both hands around the cup. "So," she said, "Noah Carter, high school teacher, single dad, terrible dancer who's actually not terrible." Despite himself, he smiled. That's the summary, yeah. How old is Emma? 8. Almost 9. And it's just the two of you? The question landed gently, but Noah felt the weight of it anyway. Yeah, her mom died 4 years ago. Car accident. Arya's expression shifted. Not pity, he'd learned to recognize pity, but something closer to understanding. I'm sorry. Thank you. That must be hard, doing it alone. Some days are harder than others. Noah took a sip of his coffee. But Emma makes it easier. She's the best thing I've ever done. I could tell. The way she looked at you last night, that's not something you can fake. What about you? Noah asked, wanting to shift the focus. Do you have kids? No, I'm married to my work, basically. Arya's smile turned self-deprecating. Which sounds sad when I say it out loud, but it's true. What exactly do you do? You were pretty vague last night. I run a consulting firm, Bennett Strategic. We help companies and nonprofits figure out their problems and implement solutions. Organizational development, strategic planning, that kind of thing. Noah processed this. So you're your own boss. For better or worse, started the company 6 years ago, just me and a laptop in my apartment. Now we've got an office downtown and 12 employees. That's impressive. Arya shrugged. It's a lot of work, but it's mine, you know? Every success, every failure, it all comes back to me. I like that. The accountability. Noah could respect that. He'd never had the entrepreneurial drive. Teaching had been his calling since college. But he understood the appeal of building something from nothing. How did you end up at the wedding? He asked. Are you friends with Marcus or Jennifer? Jennifer's family, actually. Her father, Richard Cole, is one of my clients. We've worked together on a few projects over the years. When Jennifer got engaged, Richard insisted I come to the wedding. She paused. I almost didn't. I'm not great at these big social events. Too much small talk. You seemed pretty comfortable to me. That's practice. When you run a business, you learn to fake comfort even when you're dying inside. She took a sip of her drink. Last night was different, though. Different how? I don't know. Usually at these things, I'm in work mode the whole time, networking, making connections, thinking about how every conversation could lead to something useful. She met his eyes. But when I saw you sitting there with your daughter, looking like you'd rather be anywhere else, I don't know. I just wanted to talk to you. Noah felt heat creep up his neck. I wasn't that obvious, was I? You were very obvious, and her smile was warm. But in a way that felt honest. Everyone else there was performing. You were just being real. I didn't think I belonged, Noah admitted. Still don't really. Why not? Come on, look at that place. Look at the people there. I'm a high school teacher who drives a 12-year-old Honda and buys his suits at outlet stores. That's not my world. Arya leaned forward slightly. Can I tell you something? Half the people in that room are drowning in debt trying to maintain appearances. The other half inherited their money and have never worked a real day in their lives. You? You do work that actually matters. You shape young minds. You're raising a daughter on your own. That's worth more than anything happening in that ballroom. Noah didn't know what to say to that. He stared down at his coffee, feeling something uncomfortable and warm settle in his chest. Sorry, Arya said after a moment. That was probably too much. I have a habit of being too direct. No, it's... Thank you. I just don't hear things like that very often. You should. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the noise of the coffee shop filling the space between them. Someone laughed at a nearby table. The espresso machine hissed. Outside, people walked past the windows, lost in their own Sunday afternoons. Can I ask you something? Noah said. Sure. Why did you message me? Last night, we danced for one song. You don't know me. Arya considered this, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. Honestly? I'm not entirely sure. I don't usually do things like that, but there was something about the way you moved when you thought no one was watching. The way you looked at your daughter, the way you didn't try to impress me or put on a show. She paused. You seemed real, and I don't meet a lot of real people in my line of work. I'm not that interesting. I disagree. She took another sip. Tell me about teaching. What do you love about it? So Noah told her. About the moment when a struggling student finally grasps a concept they'd been wrestling with for weeks. About the kids who came from broken homes and found stability in his classroom. About the small victories that kept him going when the bureaucracy and the budget cuts and the standardized testing threatened to crush his spirit. Arya listened intently, asking questions that showed she was actually paying attention. She didn't check her phone once, didn't let her attention wander, just listened like what he was saying actually mattered. "You're good at this," Noah said, eventually. "At what?" "Making people feel heard. It's part of the job. But with you, it's not work. I'm genuinely curious." "About what?" "My life isn't exactly exciting. Maybe not by some standards, but you're doing something important, something that lasts." She leaned back in her chair. "I spend my days helping companies maximize efficiency and increase profit margins. It pays well, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure any of it really matters. What you do? That matters." Noah felt something shift in the conversation, a deepening. "You sound like you're having second thoughts about your career." "Not second thoughts exactly, more like questions about what I want the next chapter to look like." Arya's expression turned thoughtful. "I built something I'm proud of, but lately I've been thinking about impact, about whether I'm using my skills for the right things." "What would the right things be?" "I don't know yet, but I've been having conversations with people who work in education, nonprofits, social impact organizations." She paused, seeming to weigh her next words carefully. "Actually, that's part of why I wanted to talk to you." Noah felt a small flutter of uncertainty. "What do you mean?" "One of my current projects is with an education foundation, the Riverside Initiative. They work with underserved school districts, providing resources and support for teachers who want to expand their impact beyond the traditional classroom. Curriculum development, teacher training programs, that kind of thing." "Okay." "They're looking for experienced educators to join their team, people who actually know what it's like in the classroom, who understand the challenges teachers face." Arya's gaze was steady. "When I met you last night when you talked about your work, I could tell you're exactly the kind of person they need." Noah's stomach dropped. "Are you offering me a job?" "Not exactly. I'm not with the foundation. I'm just consulting with them. But I could make an introduction, set up a conversation, no pressure, no obligations, just a chance to learn about what they do and see if it might be interesting to you." He sat back, his mind racing. "I don't understand. You don't even know me. We met yesterday." "I know. And I realize this is coming out of nowhere. But I've been doing this work for 6 years, Noah. I've interviewed hundreds of people, assessed dozens of organizations. I've gotten pretty good at recognizing when someone has what it takes." She held his gaze. "You have it. You can't possibly know that from one dance and one conversation." "Maybe not, but my instincts are usually right." She softened slightly. "Look, I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now. I'm just saying there's an opportunity here if you want to explore it. Think about it. Talk to them. See what they have to say. What's the harm in that?" Noah wanted to list all the ways this could go wrong. The stability of his current job, the pension he'd been building, the fact that he had a daughter to support and couldn't afford to take risks on some vague opportunity presented by a woman he'd just met. But instead he heard himself say, "What would this job actually involve?" Arya's expression brightened. "They're building a teacher development program, working with educators who want to move into curriculum design, instructional coaching, that kind of thing. It would still be education-focused, still working with teachers and students, but with a broader reach. Instead of impacting 30 kids a year in your classroom, you could help shape the experience for thousands. And the pay? Competitive. Better than what teachers make, that's for sure. Plus benefits, professional development budget, the whole package." It sounded too good to be true, which usually meant it was. "Why me?" Noah asked. "Seriously, there have to be hundreds of qualified teachers out there, people with more experience, better credentials. Maybe. But I watched you with your daughter. I heard the way you talked about your students. That kind of passion, that kind of genuine care. You can't teach that. Either someone has it or they don't." Arya leaned forward. "The foundation doesn't need another resume-padding careerist. They need someone who actually gives a damn. That's you." Noah felt the weight of the offer settling over him. This was insane. 24 hours ago, he'd been sitting in his apartment grading papers and planning next week's lessons. Now he was having coffee with a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine, discussing opportunities that could change his entire life. "I need to think about this," he said finally. "Of course. Take all the time you need." Arya pulled out her phone, typed something quickly. "I'm sending you the Foundation's website. Look it over. If you're interested, let me know and I'll set up a meeting with their director. If not, no hard feelings." Noah's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, seeing the link she'd sent. "Thank you," he said. "I mean it. Even if nothing comes of this, thank you for thinking of me." "You're welcome." Arya checked her watch. "I should probably get going. I've got a proposal due tomorrow, and I haven't even started the final section." On a Sunday? The glamorous life of an entrepreneur. She stood, gathering her jacket. This was nice, though. Really nice. Noah stood too, suddenly not wanting the conversation to end. "Can I ask you something else?" "Sure." "Is this—" He struggled to find the right words. Is this just about the job opportunity? Or— He trailed off, feeling his face heat. "Smooth, Carter. Real smooth." But Arya didn't look uncomfortable. If anything, her expression turned softer. "The job opportunity is real," she said carefully. "And yes, that's part of why I wanted to talk to you. But it's not the only reason." She paused. "I like talking to you, Noah. You're different from most people I meet. In a good way." "Different how?" "You don't have an agenda. You're not trying to impress me or use me for connections or figure out what you can get from me. You're just you." She smiled. "It's refreshing." Noah felt something warm expand in his chest. "I'd like to see you again, if that's okay." "I'd like that too. Even if I decide not to pursue the job thing, even then." Arya reached into her bag and pulled out a business card, writing something on the back before handing it to him. "That's my personal number. Call me sometime. We can grab dinner or something." Noah took the card, his fingers brushing against hers. The contact sent a small electric current up his arm. "I will," he said. "Good." She headed toward the door, then paused and looked back. "Noah?" "Yeah?" "I meant what I said, about you being real. Don't lose that, okay? No matter what happens next." Then she was gone, disappearing into the Sunday afternoon crowd. Noah stood there for a long moment, staring at the business card in his hand. Arya Bennett, founder and CEO, Bennett Strategic Consulting. Below that, in neat handwriting, Arya, 555-0147. He sat back down, even though his coffee had gone cold. His mind was spinning. 24 hours ago, his life had been predictable. Safe. The same routine he'd followed for 4 years. Wake up. Get Emma to school. Teach. Come home. Grade papers. Sleep. Repeat. One dance had opened a door he hadn't even known existed. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Emma, texting from Mrs. Patterson's phone. "When are you coming home?" Mrs. P made cookies. Noah smiled. "On my way. Save me one." "Too late. Already ate them all. You monster." He gathered his things and headed out into the cool afternoon. The walk back to his car gave him time to process everything that had just happened. Arya was interested in him. Not just professionally, though the job opportunity was real enough, but actually interested in him. Noah Carter, high school teacher, single dad, guy who wore the same 3 shirts on rotation and couldn't remember the last time he'd been on a real date. It didn't make sense. She was successful, confident, beautiful. She ran her own company. She moved through the world like she owned it. And he was him. But she'd asked him to call. She'd given him her personal number. She'd said she liked talking to him. Noah reached his Honda, 12 years old, a dent in the rear bumper from when he'd backed into a pole in the school parking lot, and climbed inside. Before starting the engine, he pulled out his phone and opened the link Arya had sent. The Riverside Initiative's website loaded. Professional design, clean layout. Photos of classrooms and teachers, students engaged in projects that looked nothing like the standardized test prep Noah spent most of his time on. Their mission statement talked about transforming education from the inside out, empowering teachers to become leaders and change makers. It looked legitimate, impressive even. Noah scrolled through the staff bios. The executive director had a PhD from Stanford and 20 years of experience in education policy. The program coordinators all had teaching backgrounds. They worked with districts across 3 states, ran summer institutes, published research. This was real. The opportunity was real, and it terrified him. Noah had spent 4 years playing it safe, taking care of Emma, keeping his head down, not rocking the boat. The idea of jumping into something new, something uncertain, felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. But there was another part of him, a part he'd been ignoring for a long time, that felt something else. Excitement, possibility, the sense that maybe, just maybe, there was more to life than just getting through each day. He drove home, his thoughts a tangle of questions and possibilities. When he walked into his apartment, Emma launched herself at him. "Did you have fun?" "I did, yeah." "Was it a date?" Noah hesitated. "It was coffee with a friend." "Mrs. Patterson says when a man and a woman have coffee alone, it's a date." "Mrs. Patterson talks too much." Emma grinned. "Are you going to see her again?" "Maybe, I don't know." "You should. You looked happy when you came in. You don't look happy very much." The observation hit harder than it should have. Noah pulled his daughter into a hug, feeling the familiar ache of wanting to be enough for her and knowing he probably wasn't. "I'm happy, Em. I promise." "Okay." She pulled back. "Can we watch a movie?" "Sure. What do you want to watch?" They settled on the couch with some animated thing Emma had seen a dozen times. Noah tried to focus on the screen, but his mind kept drifting back to the coffee shop, to Arya's smile, to the business card in his pocket, to the possibility that his carefully constructed life might be about to change. That night, after Emma was asleep, Noah sat at his kitchen table with his laptop open. The Riverside Initiative's website was pulled up in one tab. His school district's employee portal was open in another, showing his salary information, his benefits package, his tenure status. On paper, leaving made no sense. He had job security, a pension building, insurance that actually covered what it needed to. The unknown was risky, stupid even, but he kept thinking about what Arya had said, about impact, about using his skills for something bigger than just his classroom. He thought about the kids he'd taught over the years, the ones who'd gone on to college, to good jobs, to lives better than the ones they'd been born into. He'd made a difference for them. He knew that. But what if he could make that kind of difference for hundreds of teachers, for thousands of students he'd never meet, but whose lives could be shaped by the work he did? Noah closed his laptop and rubbed his eyes. He needed to talk to someone about this. Someone who would give him honest advice without judgment. He picked up his phone and scrolled through his contacts, landing on a name he hadn't called in months. Jason Park had been his roommate in college, his best man at his wedding, the person who'd shown up at the hospital the night Sarah died and just sat with him in silence for 6 hours. Jason answered on the second ring. "Noah Carter. To what do I owe this late-night honor? Sorry, is this a bad time? I'm watching highlights of a game from 3 weeks ago. Your timing is perfect." Jason's voice shifted, concern creeping in. "Everything okay? Emma all right?" "Yeah, everyone's fine. I need to talk something through." "Shoot." So Noah told him about the wedding, about Arya, about the dance and the coffee, and the job opportunity that seemed too good to be true. He laid it all out, not holding anything back. Jason was quiet for a moment after Noah finished. Then, "Holy shit, man. Yeah. So let me get this straight. You went to a wedding, met a gorgeous, successful woman who asked you to dance, and now she's offering to help you land a better job and also wants to see you again?" "That's the summary, yeah." "And you're calling me because I don't know what to do. This all feels too fast, too good. Like I'm missing something." Jason sighed. "Noah, I say this with love. You've been living in a cave for 4 years. You've been so focused on just surviving, on taking care of Emma and getting through each day, that you forgot how to actually live. That's not fair. It's completely fair, and it's not a criticism. What you've done, raising Emma alone, keeping your shit together, that's heroic. But you can't just exist in survival mode forever. At some point, you have to let yourself want things again." Noah felt something tighten in his throat. "What if I screw it up?" "Then you screw it up. but at least you tried. At least you took a chance on something instead of just letting life happen to you. I have Emma to think about. I can't afford to take risks. The job sounds legit, right? Good organization, better pay? Yeah. So what's the real risk? That you might actually be happy. That you might find something better than what you have now. Noah didn't answer. Look, Jason said, his voice softening. I'm not saying jump into anything blindly. Do your research. Talk to the foundation people. Make sure it's real, but don't talk yourself out of it just because you're scared. Sarah wouldn't want that for you. The mention of Sarah's name sent a familiar ache through Noah's chest. How do you know what Sarah would want? Because she told me. After you two got engaged, she pulled me aside and made me promise that if anything ever happened to her, I'd make sure you didn't stop living. She said you had a tendency to overthink everything, to play it safe. She made me swear I'd kick your ass if you ever forgot how to take chances. Noah felt tears prick at his eyes. He hadn't known that. Sarah had never mentioned it. So consider this me keeping that promise, Jason continued. Call the foundation. Go on an actual date with this woman. Let yourself want something more than just getting through each day. You deserve that, Noah. Emma deserves to see her dad actually happy, not just functioning. They talked for a while longer, about nothing and everything. When Noah finally hung up, it was past midnight. He should have been exhausted, but instead he felt wired, awake in a way he hadn't been in years. He pulled out Arya's business card and stared at the handwritten number. Then, before he could talk himself out of it, he sent a text. Noah, thank you for today. I had a really good time. I'd like to talk to the people at Riverside. Can you set up that meeting? He hit send and set the phone down, his heart racing. 3 minutes later, it buzzed. Arya, of course. I'll reach out tomorrow and let you know what they say. And Noah? I had a really good time too. Noah smiled at the screen like an idiot. Noah, also, about that dinner you mentioned. Arya, yes? Noah, I'd like that, if the offer still stands. Arya, it absolutely does. Friday night? Noah, Friday's perfect. Arya, it's a date. Noah set his phone down and leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. A date. An actual date. With a woman who made him nervous and excited and alive in a way he'd forgotten he could feel. And a job interview with an organization that could change everything. He thought about Emma, asleep down the hall, about the life they'd built together, safe and stable and small, about the possibility of something bigger. For 4 years he'd been treading water, just trying to keep his head above the surface. Maybe it was time to actually swim. The week crawled by like something wounded. Monday morning, Noah stood in front of his third-period physics class explaining Newton's laws of motion, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. Every time his phone buzzed in his pocket, his pulse spiked. Arya had promised to reach out to the Riverside initiative. She'd said she'd let him know. But 2 days had passed with nothing but silence. Mr. Carter? He blinked, realizing one of his students, Marcus Chen, a junior with thick-framed glasses, was staring at him expectantly. Sorry, what was the question? I asked if you could explain the formula again, for calculating force. Noah turned back to the whiteboard, writing out F equals ma in letters that felt shaky. Force equals mass times acceleration. The greater the mass or the acceleration, the greater the force required to move an object. He went through the motions, explained the concept 3 different ways, answered questions, assigned homework, but part of him was counting the minutes until the period ended. At lunch, he sat in the teacher's lounge with a sandwich he'd made at 6 that morning and couldn't bring himself to eat. Rachel Morrison, who taught English down the hall, dropped into the chair across from him. You look like hell, she said cheerfully. Thanks, Rachel. You always know what to say. Seriously, though, you okay? You've been weird all week. Noah considered telling her. Rachel was one of the few people at the school he actually trusted, but the words felt too big, too uncertain. Just thinking about some stuff, he said finally. Stuff like career stuff, life stuff. Rachel's eyebrows went up. Noah Carter thinking about life stuff? Are you dying? Is this a bucket list situation? I'm not dying. Then what? He sighed. If someone offered you a different job, better pay, bigger impact, but way less stability. Would you take it? Rachel was quiet for a moment, chewing her turkey wrap. Depends. What's the job? Education consulting, working with a foundation that develops teacher training programs. Huh. She studied him. You get an offer? Not yet. Maybe. I don't know. But you're thinking about it. I'm thinking about a lot of things. Rachel leaned back in her chair. Look, I love teaching. You know I do. But I'd be lying if I said I haven't thought about getting out. The pay's shit. The administration doesn't give a damn about us. And every year they pile on more standardized testing and less actual teaching. She paused. If someone offered me a way to make a difference without dealing with all that bureaucratic garbage, I'd at least listen. Noah nodded slowly. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So listen, see what they have to say. Worst case, you decide it's not for you and nothing changes. And best case? Best case, you find something better, something that doesn't make you look like you've aged 10 years in the past 4. Jesus, Rachel. What? I'm just being honest. She stood, gathering her lunch trash. Whatever you decide, just make sure it's actually what you want, not what you think you should want. There's a difference. That night, after Emma was asleep, Noah sat on his couch with a beer he wasn't drinking and stared at his phone. Still nothing from Arya. Maybe she'd reconsidered. Maybe the people at Riverside had looked at his resume and laughed. Maybe... The phone rang. Arya's name appeared on the screen. Noah nearly dropped the phone in his haste to answer. Hello? Hey. Her voice was warm, slightly breathless. Sorry for calling so late. Just got out of a meeting that went way longer than it should have. It's fine. I wasn't doing anything. I have good news. I talked to Dr. Sarah Chen at Riverside. She's the executive director. I told her about you and she wants to meet. Noah's stomach flipped. Really? Really? I sent her your resume. Hope that's okay. I pulled it from the school district's website, and she was impressed. She said your experience is exactly what they're looking for. When does she want to meet? Thursday afternoon, 3 o'clock. Their office is downtown, corner of 5th and Market. Arya paused. Are you free? Noah thought about his schedule. Thursday he had classes until 2:30, then planning period. He could make it work. Yeah, I can do that. Perfect. I'll email you the details. Another pause. How are you feeling about this? Terrified, Noah admitted. Also kind of excited. Mostly terrified. Arya laughed softly. That's probably the right reaction. Big decisions should feel scary. What if I'm not what they're looking for? What if I get there and realize I'm in over my head? Then you'll know. But Noah, you need to stop doubting yourself. You're good at what you do. I could see that just from watching you for an hour. Dr. Chen is going to see it too. Noah wanted to believe her. Thanks for setting this up. You didn't have to. I wanted to. And hey, we still on for Friday? Absolutely. Good. I'm looking forward to it. Her voice softened. Try not to stress too much about Thursday, okay? Just be yourself. That's more than enough. After they hung up, Noah sat in the quiet of his apartment feeling the weight of what was coming. 2 days until the interview, 3 until his date with Arya. Everything was moving fast, too fast maybe, but he couldn't seem to make himself want it to slow down. Wednesday evening, Noah stood in front of his closet trying to figure out what the hell you wear to an interview at an education foundation. His suits were all variations of the same theme, conservative, slightly worn, purchased from places with the word outlet in the name. Would that read as professional or desperate? Dad, you're overthinking again. Emma stood in his doorway, watching him with that knowing expression she'd inherited from her mother. I just want to make it a good impression. You will. You're smart and nice and good at your job. They're going to like you. How do you know? Because everybody likes you. Your students like you. The other teachers like you. Even Mrs. Patterson likes you, and she doesn't like anyone. Noah smiled despite his nerves. When did you get so wise? I was born this way. Emma came into the room and stood next to him, surveying the closet. Wear the dark blue one, with the white shirt. No tie. No tie? Ties are for funerals and parent-teacher conferences. This is different. He decided to trust her. 8-year-olds had better instincts than people gave them credit for. Thursday afternoon arrived with the kind of bright autumn sunshine that made everything feel possible and precarious at the same time. Noah left school at 2:45, ignoring the curious look from Rachel as he hurried out. The drive downtown took 20 minutes in traffic that seemed personally designed to spike his blood pressure. The Riverside Initiative's office was in a renovated warehouse building, all exposed brick and industrial windows. The kind of space that probably cost a fortune but looked deliberately unfinished. Noah checked his reflection in the glass door. Dark blue suit, white shirt, no tie, hair doing its usual messy thing, no matter how much product he'd used, and took a breath before walking inside. The reception area was bright and open. Photographs of classrooms and students covered one wall. On another, a mission statement was painted in letters 2 feet tall. Transforming education through teacher leadership. A young woman at the front desk looked up as he entered. "Can I help you?" "I have a meeting with Dr. Chen, Noah Carter." "Of course, she's expecting you. 3rd floor, take the elevator and turn left. Her office is at the end of the hall." Noah thanked her and headed for the elevator, his heart doing something complicated in his chest. The 3rd floor was just as bright as the lobby, with an open floor plan and people working at desks scattered throughout the space. Some looked up as he passed. Most were too absorbed in their work to notice. Dr. Chen's office was at the end of a hallway lined with more photographs. The door was open. A woman in her early 50s sat behind a desk covered in papers and coffee cups, talking rapidly on her phone. She had short gray hair, kind eyes behind stylish glasses, and the kind of energy that suggested she'd had 4 espressos for breakfast. She spotted Noah and held up one finger. "Just a minute." He waited in the doorway, trying not to look like he was eavesdropping on a conversation about budget allocations and grant deadlines. Finally, Dr. Chen hung up and stood, extending her hand. "Noah Carter, thank you for coming. I'm Sarah Chen, though everyone here just calls me Dr. Chen because apparently formality makes people feel better about my constant meddling." Her handshake was firm, her smile was genuine. "Thank you for seeing me," Noah said. "Please sit. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" "Fair warning, the coffee here is terrible, but it's caffeinated." "I'm good, thanks." Dr. Chen settled back into her chair, pulling his resume from a stack of papers. "So, Aria Bennett speaks very highly of you. She doesn't do that often, which tells me I should pay attention. She's very kind. She's very honest, actually, which is why I trust her judgment." Dr. Chen scanned the resume. 12 years teaching high school math and physics. Multiple awards for teaching excellence. Sponsorship of the robotics club. You've been busy. I try to stay involved. Why? The question caught him off guard. Why what? Why do you try to stay involved? Most teachers I know do the bare minimum and go home. You're running after school programs, staying late for tutoring. What's the motivation? Noah considered the question. Because the kids need it. A lot of them come from situations where no one's paying attention, where no one expects much from them. If I can be the person who shows them they're capable of more than they think, that feels worth the extra hours. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. Tell me about a student who challenged you, someone who pushed you to be better at your job. Noah thought for a moment. There was this kid, Miguel Santos. Had him in my physics class 3 years ago. Brilliant mind, but he'd completely checked out. Stopped doing homework, failed every test. I assumed he was lazy, but it turned out his mom was working 3 jobs and he was taking care of his younger siblings every night, no time for school. What did you do? I started staying late twice a week just to work with him, but not on physics, on time management, on how to balance everything. I helped him talk to his other teachers, get extensions when he needed them. Eventually he started doing better. Not because he suddenly got smarter, but because someone gave him the tools to manage his life. Where is he now? State University, engineering major. He sends me an email every semester with his grades. Dr. Chen smiled. That's the kind of work we do here, Noah, but scaled up. We train teachers to be that person for their students. We give them the tools and support to make systemic changes in their schools. Aria mentioned teacher development programs. That's our core focus. We identify talented educators who have the potential to become instructional leaders, and we give them the training and resources to expand their impact. Some of them go on to become curriculum developers. Some become instructional coaches. Some start their own programs within their districts. Noah leaned forward. And you're looking for someone to help run these programs? We're looking for someone to help design them. Our current model works, but we're expanding into 3 new states next year. We need someone with real classroom experience who can help us adapt our approach for different contexts. She paused. Arya said you're exceptional with students, that you have the kind of instincts we can't teach. Is that accurate? I don't know if exceptional is the right word, but I care about my students. I want them to succeed. That's more than half the battle. Dr. Chen set the resume down. Here's what I'm thinking. We have a position opening in January, Curriculum Development Specialist. You'd be working with our team to design training programs for middle and high school teachers. Lots of travel. You'd be visiting schools, observing classrooms, gathering data, but you'd also be shaping the future of how we support teachers across multiple states. Noah felt his pulse quicken. What about the teaching? Would I still be in a classroom? Not regularly. You'd do some demonstration teaching as part of our training programs, but your primary role would be developmental work. The idea of leaving the classroom entirely sent a spike of anxiety through him. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Understandable, but think of it this way. Right now you impact maybe 150 students a year. In this role, you'd be helping train teachers who collectively reach thousands of students. Your impact multiplies exponentially. It was the same argument Arya had made, and it made sense. But the thought of walking away from his classroom, from the kids who knew him and trusted him, felt like a betrayal. Dr. Chen seemed to read his hesitation. I'm not asking you to decide today. Take some time. Think about it. Talk to your family. I'd like you to visit us again, meet the team, see what we do firsthand. Would you be open to that? Yes, absolutely. Good. How's next Tuesday? We're running a workshop for teachers from the Middleton district. You can observe, get a feel for our approach. I can make that work. They talked for another 30 minutes. Dr. Chen walked him through the organization's history, their funding sources, their success metrics. She was passionate without being performative, knowledgeable without being condescending. Noah found himself liking her, trusting her in a way he hadn't expected. As he stood to leave Dr. Chen extended her hand again. One more thing. Arya mentioned you're a single parent. I want you to know we're very family-friendly here. Flexible schedules, work-from-home options when needed. We understand that life happens. Thank you. That means a lot. We take care of our people, Noah, because we can't ask them to take care of teachers if we're not doing the same. Noah left the building feeling like he'd just stepped off a roller coaster. His mind was racing, thoughts tumbling over each other too fast to sort. The position sounded incredible. Dr. Chen seemed genuine. The work aligned with everything he believed about education. But leaving his classroom, leaving the kids who depended on him, that felt impossible. He sat in his car for a long moment, staring through the windshield at nothing. Then he pulled out his phone and called the one person who might understand. Arya answered immediately. How did it go? I don't know. Good, I think. She offered me another visit next week. That's great, Noah. What did you think of her? She's impressive. The whole place is impressive. He trailed off. You're scared, Arya said gently. Yeah. Of what specifically? Leaving my students, my classroom, everything I've built over the past 12 years. That makes sense. Change is terrifying. What if I'm not good at this? What if I'm only good at teaching high school kids and everything else is just wishful thinking? Arya was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? When I started my company, I was 26 years old with a business degree and absolutely no idea what I was doing. I spent the first year convinced I was going to fail. Every client meeting, every proposal, I thought they'd figure out I was a fraud. What changed? I stopped waiting to feel ready. I realized that competence comes from doing, not from feeling confident before you start. She paused. You're good at teaching because you care and you're willing to do the work. Those qualities don't disappear just because the context changes. Noah felt some of the tension ease. You're good at this pep talk thing. I've had practice. Running a business means constantly convincing people, including yourself, that impossible things are actually possible. I'll think about it. The Tuesday visit. Good. And Noah? Yeah? I'm proud of you for even considering this. A lot of people wouldn't have the courage. After they hung up, Noah sat in the parking garage and let himself feel everything at once, the fear and the excitement and the crushing weight of making a decision that could change everything. His phone showed 4:30. Emma would be getting home from her after-school program soon. He needed to get back. But first he sent a text to Dr. Chen's assistant confirming his visit for Tuesday. Then he drove home through rush hour traffic, his mind already somewhere else entirely. Friday night arrived with the kind of nervous energy that made Noah change his shirt 3 times before Emma finally told him to pick one and stick with it. "The gray one," she said from his doorway. "It makes you look nice." "Nice like what?" "Like someone who goes on dates." He'd told her about dinner with Arya, not the job stuff. That felt too uncertain to explain, but the fact that he was going out. Emma had reacted with a level of enthusiasm that both warmed and terrified him. "You should bring her flowers," Emma said. "I'm not bringing flowers to a first date. That's weird." Mom liked flowers. Noah felt the familiar ache at the mention of Sarah. "Your mom and I were already together when I started bringing her flowers. This is different." "How?" "It just is." Emma crossed her arms. "You're nervous." "I am not nervous." "You've changed your shirt like 100 times. 3 times. That's still nervous." Noah sighed, pulling on the gray shirt. "Okay, fine. I'm a little nervous." "Happy?" Emma grinned. "It's okay to be nervous, Dad. It means you like her." "I barely know her." "But you want to know her. That's the same thing." When had his daughter become so wise about relationships? He'd been so focused on keeping her safe and stable that he'd apparently missed her growing up. Mrs. Patterson arrived at 6:30 to stay with Emma. She gave Noah an approving once-over and told him not to rush back. "Take your time. Emma and I are going to watch movies and eat popcorn." "Not too much popcorn," Noah said. "All the popcorn," Emma countered. He left them negotiating terms and headed out into the cool evening. Arya had suggested a restaurant called the Bellwood, a place Noah had heard of but never been to. When he pulled up the website to check the dress code, his stomach had dropped. Entrees started at $35. The reviews used words like exquisite and refined. This wasn't his world, but he was trying. The Bellwood occupied the ground floor of a converted factory building in the Arts District. Exposed brick, industrial lighting, an open kitchen where chefs moved with choreographed precision. The host at the front podium looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. "Reservation?" she asked. "Carter, table for 2. She checked her tablet. "Your party is already here. Right this way." Noah followed her through the dining room, acutely aware of the other diners, couples in expensive clothes having quiet conversations over wine that probably cost more than his monthly electric bill. Then he saw Arya, and everything else faded. She sat at a corner table near the windows, wearing a dark red dress that was somehow both simple and stunning. Her hair fell loose around her shoulders. She looked up as he approached, and her face broke into a smile that made the entire nervous drive worth it. "Hi," she said, standing. "Hi." Noah realized he was staring. "You look... wow." "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." She gestured to the chair across from her. "I hope this place is okay. I know it's a little fancy." "It's great." A lie, but a polite one. They settled into their seats. A waiter appeared immediately with menus and a wine list the size of a small novel. Arya ordered a glass of something red that Noah pretended to recognize. He asked for water. "You don't drink?" Arya asked after the waiter left. "Not usually. Sarah's accident. The driver who hit her was drunk. I haven't had much taste for it since." Arya's expression shifted. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to... It's fine. You didn't know." "Still, that must have been horrible." Noah nodded slowly. "It was. For a long time, I didn't think I'd survive it. Then I realized I had to because Emma needed me. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She's kept me going when I wanted to give up." The waiter returned with drinks. Arya raised her glass slightly. "To new beginnings," Noah lifted his water. "To taking chances." They clinked glasses, and something about the gesture felt significant, like they were marking a moment, acknowledging that whatever this was between them, it mattered. "So," Arya said after a sip of wine, "tell me how the interview went. Real version, not the polite version." Noah appreciated the directness. It went well. Dr. Chen is impressive. The whole organization is impressive. They're doing exactly the kind of work I've always believed in. But leaving my classroom feels impossible. I keep thinking about my students, about who's going to be there for them if I'm gone. Someone else will be there for them. A good teacher, probably. But Noah, you can't save everyone by yourself. Sometimes making a bigger impact means stepping back from the individual work. I know that intellectually, but emotionally, he trailed off. What if I'm making a mistake? What if you're not? The question hung between them. Noah picked up his menu, using it as a shield while he tried to compose himself. The prices made his eyes water, but he forced himself to focus on the descriptions instead. The salmon is really good here, Arya offered. So is the steak if you're a meat person. I'm whatever doesn't require a second mortgage person. She laughed. My treat tonight. Absolutely not. Noah, I invited you here. I can't afford it. That's not the point. Then what is the point? He set down the menu. The point is, I'm not a charity case. I know you make way more money than I do, and I know this place is probably nothing to you, but I need to pay my own way. Arya studied him for a moment. Okay, we'll split it. Thank you. They ordered salmon for her, steak for him, because he figured if he was going to blow half a week's grocery budget on one meal, he might as well make it count. The conversation shifted to safer topics. Arya talked about her work, about a difficult client who wanted results without being willing to make any changes. Noah told her about a robotics club, about their upcoming competition against schools with 10 times their budget. The food arrived and was, Noah had to admit, exceptional. The steak was cooked perfectly, the sides were creative without being weird, and for a while he forgot to worry about the cost. Can I ask you something personal? Arya said, setting down her fork. Sure. Well, why haven't you dated since Sarah? The question should have felt invasive, but coming from Arya, it just felt honest. At first, I was too broken. Then I was too busy. And after a while, it just seemed easier not to. Emma and I have a rhythm. Adding someone else to that equation felt complicated. And now? Now I'm sitting across from you in a fancy restaurant trying not to panic about how much everything costs. Arya smiled. That's not an answer. Now, Noah said carefully, I'm starting to think maybe being alone isn't actually easier. Maybe it's just lonelier, and I got used to confusing the two. That's honest. You asked for honest. I did. Arya took another sip of wine. For what it's worth, I think you're brave. Raising a daughter alone, doing work you believe in, actually showing up when someone asks you to take a chance. That's not nothing. I don't feel brave. I feel like I'm stumbling through most days trying not to screw everything up. That's what brave looks like in real life. It's not feeling confident. It's doing the thing anyway. They finished dinner and lingered over coffee, regular coffee, which Noah was grateful for. The restaurant had emptied out, leaving them in a bubble of relative privacy. Arya told him about growing up in a small town, about parents who expected her to become a doctor or lawyer and had been baffled when she started her own business instead. They've come around now, she said, but for a long time they thought I was throwing my life away. What changed their minds? Success. Nothing convinces parents like financial stability. She paused. What about you? What did your parents think of you becoming a teacher? They were supportive. My dad was a teacher too, high school history. He understood the calling. Was? He died 6 years ago. Heart attack. I'm sorry. Thanks. My mom's still around. Lives in Florida now with her sister. We talk every week. Noah smiled slightly. She's been on me for years to start dating again. She'd probably throw a party if she knew about tonight. Are you going to tell her? Maybe. If there's something to tell. Arya met his eyes across the table. I'd like there to be something to tell. Noah's heart kicked. Yeah? Yeah. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing against his. I like you, Noah. You're different from anyone I usually meet, in the best possible way. He turned his hand over, letting their fingers intertwine. Her skin was warm, her grip gentle, but sure. I like you too, he said, even though this terrifies me. Good terrified or bad terrified? I'm not sure there's a difference. They left the restaurant around 10, stepping out into a night that had turned crisp and clear. Arya pulled her coat tighter, and without thinking, Noah moved closer, offering what little warmth he could. They stood on the sidewalk outside the Bellwood, neither quite ready to leave. I had a really good time tonight, Arya said. Me too. We should do this again. Definitely. Maybe somewhere where I don't need to take out a loan. She laughed. Deal. You pick next time. Noah walked her to her car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than his annual salary. She unlocked it, but didn't get in. Thank you, she said, for tonight, for taking a chance on this. Thank you for asking. They stood there, close enough that Noah could smell her perfume, could see the way the streetlight caught in her eyes. His heart was hammering. Every instinct told him to kiss her, but fear held him frozen. Arya stepped closer. She reached up, her hand touching his cheek, and then she kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, giving him space to pull away if he wanted. But Noah didn't want to pull away. He leaned in, his hands finding her waist, and kissed her back with 4 years of loneliness and longing compressed into one perfect moment. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Arya smiled up at him. I've wanted to do that since the wedding, she admitted. You could have. You weren't ready. And now? Now you are. She kissed him again, quick and sweet, then pulled back. I should go. Early meeting tomorrow. Right, yeah. She climbed into her car, but before closing the door, she looked up at him. Noah? About the job. Whatever you decide, I'm here. As a friend, as whatever this is. The job doesn't change that. Thank you. That means a lot. Good night. Good night. He watched her drive away, taillights disappearing into the night, and stood there on the sidewalk feeling like his entire world had tilted on its axis. 1 week ago, he'd been a high school teacher going through the motions. Now he had a job opportunity that could change everything, and a woman who made him feel things he'd thought were dead and buried. Noah drove home in a daze, his lips still tingling from the kiss, his mind spinning with possibilities and fears in equal measure. When he got back to the apartment, Mrs. Patterson was dozing on the couch. He thanked her and paid her double what she asked for, then checked on Emma. She was asleep in her bed, surrounded by stuffed animals, one hand curled under her cheek. Noah stood in the doorway watching her breathe, feeling the weight of every decision pressing down on him. Whatever he chose, the job, the relationship, the future, it would affect her too. She deserved stability. She deserved a father who was present and focused and not constantly chasing some dream that might not work out. But she also deserved to see him happy, to see him taking chances, to learn that sometimes the scary thing was also the right thing. He thought about Arya's kiss, about Dr. Chen's offer, about Jason's advice to stop just surviving and start actually living. Maybe it was time to let himself want more than just getting through each day. Maybe it was time to believe he deserved it. Noah woke up Saturday morning with the taste of Arya's kiss still somehow present in his memory and the weight of an impossible decision pressing down on his chest. Emma was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a bowl of cereal and her tablet, watching some cartoon he'd seen 100 times. She looked up when he shuffled in. You're smiling, she observed. Am I? Yeah. Did you have fun last night? Noah poured himself coffee from the pot he'd set to auto brew. I did. Are you going to see her again? I think so, yeah. Emma nodded, satisfied. Good. You should be happy, Dad. The simple statement hit harder than it should have. Out of the mouths of 8-year-olds came truths that adults spent years trying to avoid. I am happy, Em. You're happier now than you were before. I can tell. Noah sat down across from her, cradling his coffee mug. How can you tell? You don't look sad all the time anymore. You used to look sad even when you were smiling. Now you look, I don't know, like you. He felt something crack open in his chest. How long had he been walking around wearing grief like a second skin, thinking Emma was too young to notice? I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't mean to. It's okay, Dad. I know you miss Mom. I miss her too. Emma took another bite of cereal. But I think she'd want you to be happy. With someone else, I mean, if you found someone nice. Noah had to look away, blinking against the sudden sting in his eyes. When did you get so grown up? I've always been grown up. You just didn't notice because you were busy being sad. The weekend passed in a strange blur. Noah took Emma to the park on Saturday afternoon, pushing her on the swings like he had when she was 5, both of them pretending she wasn't getting too big for this. They got ice cream from the truck that always parked near the basketball courts, and Emma got chocolate all over her face and declared it the best day ever. Sunday, he spent grading papers and trying not to obsessively check his phone for messages from Arya. She texted around noon, just a simple hope you're having a good weekend, and Noah found himself smiling at the screen like a teenager. Pretty good. Emma and I hit the park yesterday. How's your Sunday? Drowning in paperwork. The glamorous life of a CEO. Want help? You offering to do my expense reports? Absolutely not, but I could bring coffee and moral support. There was a pause, then, rain check? I'm actually kind of buried here, but I'd like to see you again soon. Tuesday? After my visit to Riverside? Perfect. Let me know how it goes. Tuesday morning arrived with the kind of gray sky that matched Noah's mood. He'd barely slept, his mind churning through scenarios. What if the workshop was terrible? What if he realized the whole thing was a mistake? What if he got there and everyone could see immediately that he didn't belong? He taught his morning classes on autopilot, going through the motions of explaining quadratic equations while his thoughts were somewhere else entirely. At lunch, Rachel cornered him in the teacher's lounge. "You're doing that thing again," she said. "What thing?" "That thing where you're physically here but your brain is in another zip code. What's going on?" Noah glanced around. The lounge was mostly empty except for 2 other teachers grading papers in the corner. "I have a meeting this afternoon," he said quietly, "with that education foundation I mentioned." Rachel's eyebrows shot up. "Seriously? That's today?" "Yeah, they're running a workshop, invited me to observe." "And you're freaking out." "I'm not freaking out." "You're definitely freaking out. I can see it in your face." She leaned forward. "Look, whatever happens, you're going to be fine. If it's the right move, you'll know. If it's not, you'll know that too." "What if I can't tell the difference?" "Then you make your best guess and deal with the consequences. That's all any of us can do." She paused. "You want my honest opinion?" "Always." "You've been coasting here for years. Don't get me wrong, you're a great teacher. But I watch you, and I see someone who's going through the motions. Like you're here because it's safe, not because it's where you want to be." Noah felt defensive heat rise in his chest. "That's not fair." "Maybe not, but it's true." Rachel's expression softened. "I'm not judging you, Noah. After what you went through with Sarah, I get why you'd want safe. But Emma's getting older. You're still young. At some point, you have to ask yourself if safe is the same as good." He left school at 1:30, the afternoon freed up by calling in a personal day for his last 2 periods. The drive to Riverside's office felt longer than it had on Thursday, every red light an opportunity for his anxiety to spike. The workshop was being held in a conference room on the 2nd floor. Noah checked in at reception, and the same young woman from before directed him upstairs. Through the glass walls of the conference room, he could see about 20 people seated around tables arranged in a U shape. Dr. Chen stood at the front, gesturing animatedly while talking. Noah slipped in quietly, taking an empty seat at the back. A few people glanced his way, but most remained focused on Dr. Chen. "The key," she was saying, "is helping teachers understand that classroom management isn't about control. It's about creating systems that make learning possible. When students know what to expect, when they feel safe and respected, behavioral issues decrease dramatically." She clicked to the next slide, showing data from a school district that had implemented their training program. Discipline referrals down 30%. Student engagement up. Teacher retention improved. One of the participants raised her hand, a woman in her 40s with tired eyes. "That's great in theory, but I teach in a school where half my kids are dealing with trauma, where they come to class hungry or homeless or worse. Systems don't fix that." "You're absolutely right," Dr. Chen said. "Systems alone don't fix trauma, but they create space for healing. When a student knows that your classroom is predictable, that you'll treat them with dignity no matter what, that becomes one stable thing in an unstable world. And sometimes that's enough to make the difference." The woman nodded slowly, considering. Dr. Chen continued, "We're not asking you to be therapists. We're asking you to be intentional about creating environments where learning can happen despite the chaos, where students feel seen and valued. The rest follows from that." Noah found himself leaning forward, engaged despite his nerves. He'd had versions of this conversation in his own head 100 times. How to reach kids who brought the weight of the world into his classroom. How to make math matter when they were worried about where they'd sleep that night. The workshop continued for another hour. Dr. Chen broke the participants into small groups, had them discuss scenarios and problem solve together. She moved between tables, listening, asking questions, gently pushing their thinking deeper. Noah watched it all, seeing the same pattern repeat. Teachers came in defensive, skeptical, worn down by years of being told they weren't doing enough. Dr. Chen met them where they were. She validated their struggles. She gave them practical tools. And slowly, he could see them opening up, leaning in, remembering why they'd become teachers in the first place. This was good work, real work, the kind that rippled outward in ways you couldn't always measure. When the workshop ended, participants gathered their materials and filtered out, some lingering to talk with Dr. Chen. Noah stayed in his seat, letting the room empty. Finally, Dr. Chen approached him. "So," she said, sitting down in the chair next to his, "what did you think?" "I think you're very good at what you do." That's diplomatic. It's true. You met them where they were, didn't talk down to them, gave them space to be honest about how hard this work is. Dr. Chen smiled. That's the only way these conversations work. Teachers can smell bullshit from a mile away. If you come in acting like you have all the answers, they shut down immediately. How do you scale that, though? What you did in there, that takes time, individual attention. You can't do that with hundreds of teachers. You're right, which is why we need more people who can do it. She studied him. What you just identified is exactly the problem we're trying to solve. We need educators who understand the work, who have credibility with other teachers, who can build those relationships at scale. Noah felt the implications settle over him. "You think I could do that?" he said. "Not a question. I know you could. The question is whether you want to." "I don't know if I want to leave the classroom. My students will be taught by someone else, someone who might even be better than you, who knows." Dr. Chen's voice was gentle but firm. "Noah, you can't save every kid. You can only do the work in front of you. Right now, that's 30 kids a day. In this role, it could be hundreds of teachers who each reach hundreds of students. The math isn't complicated. The math is terrifying. Good. If it wasn't scary, it wouldn't be worth doing." They sat in silence for a moment. Through the conference room windows, Noah could see people working at desks, moving through the office with purpose. Everyone looked engaged. No one looked miserable. "Can I ask you something personal?" Noah said. "Sure." "Why did you leave the classroom? You were a teacher before this, right?" Dr. Chen nodded. 20 years. High school English. I loved it. But I got tired of feeling like I was fighting the system instead of working with it. Tired of watching good teachers burn out because they didn't have support. So I left and started this organization. She paused. Best decision I ever made. And also the hardest. Do you miss it, teaching? Every day. But I don't regret leaving. Because now I get to help create the conditions where teachers like I was can actually thrive. That feels like a better use of my time. Noah absorbed this. How long do I have to decide? The position officially opens in January. We'd need an answer by mid-December to make the hiring timeline work. So you've got about 6 weeks. 6 weeks. A month and a half to decide whether to upend his entire life. I'll think about it, Noah said. Seriously. I promise. That's all I'm asking. Dr. Chen stood, extending her hand. Quote, thanks for coming today. I hope it was helpful. It was. Really. Noah drove home through late afternoon traffic, his mind full of everything he'd seen. The engaged teachers, the practical tools, the sense that this work mattered in ways that extended far beyond any single classroom. But also the fear, the what-ifs, the voice in his head that sounded suspiciously like his own worst doubts telling him he wasn't good enough, smart enough, brave enough for this. He picked up Emma from her after-school program, and they stopped for pizza on the way home because he didn't have the energy to cook. She chattered about her day, something about a project on butterflies and a boy in her class who ate paste, and Noah listened with half his attention while the other half spiraled. That night, after Emma was in bed, Noah pulled out his laptop. He opened 2 documents side by side. On the left, his current salary and benefits package from the school district. Stable, predictable, a pension that would actually be there when he retired. On the right, the offer details Dr. Chen had emailed him after their first meeting. 20% more in salary, full benefits, professional development budget, flexible schedule. The numbers made the decision obvious, but numbers weren't the whole story. His phone buzzed. Arya. How did it go? Noah stared at the message for a long moment before responding. Good. Confusing. Overwhelming. Want to talk about it? In person? Tomorrow? I can do lunch. There's a sandwich place near your school. Delancey's? I know it. Noon? See you then. Noah set the phone down and closed his laptop. Tomorrow he'd talk it through with Arya. Get her perspective, maybe find some clarity in the chaos. But tonight, he just needed to sit with the uncertainty. Wednesday at noon, Noah met Arya at Delancey's, a hole-in-the-wall deli 3 blocks from his school that made the best pastrami in the city. She was already there when he arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 sandwiches and 2 sodas. I ordered for you, she said as he sat down. Pastrami on rye. If I'm wrong, I'll eat both and you can order something else. How did you know? Lucky guess, you seem like a pastrami guy. Noah picked up the sandwich, thick-cut meat piled high, mustard and pickles, and took a bite. Perfect. So, Arya said, tell me about yesterday. He did. Walked her through the workshop, Doctor. Chen's approach, the way the teachers had responded. The whole time, Arya listened without interrupting, her attention fully on him. It sounds amazing, she said when he finished. It does, which is part of the problem. How is that a problem? Because I keep waiting for the catch, for the moment when I realize it's too good to be true. Arya set down her sandwich. Noah, can I be blunt? Always. You're self-sabotaging. You're so convinced you don't deserve good things that you're looking for reasons to turn this down. That's not, it is. I've watched you do it since the wedding. Anytime something good happens, you find a way to minimize it or question it or convince yourself it's not real. She leaned forward. What if it is real? What if this is exactly what it looks like? A good opportunity with good people doing good work? What then? Noah felt something defensive rise up. What if I take it and I'm terrible at it? What if I leave my classroom and realize I've made a huge mistake? Then you'll deal with it. You'll adapt. You'll figure it out. Arya's voice softened. But staying where you are because you're afraid of failing somewhere else isn't protecting you. It's just keeping you stuck. I have Emma to think about. I can't afford to take stupid risks. This isn't a stupid risk. It's a calculated move towards something better. And Emma deserves to see her dad taking chances, learning that it's okay to be scared and do the thing anyway. Noah stared at his sandwich, his appetite gone. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's terrifying. But that doesn't mean it's not the right move. They sat in silence for a moment. Around them, the lunch rush continued. Office workers grabbing food, construction guys on break, students from the community college down the street. What if I fail? Noah asked quietly. What if you don't? He looked up at her. Arya's expression was open, hopeful, completely without judgment. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. How to want things again. How to believe I deserve them. You start by making one choice, then another. Eventually, it gets easier. Did it get easier for you? Hell no. I still wake up some mornings convinced my business is going to collapse and everyone's going to figure out I'm a fraud. But I get up anyway. I do the work. And most days it's enough. Noah took a breath. If I do this, if I take the job, I'm going to need support. Someone to talk me down when I panic. Arya smiled. I can do that. Even if I'm annoying about it? Especially if you're annoying about it. They finished lunch talking about other things. Arya's upcoming project with a nonprofit, Emma's butterfly assignment, the fact that Noah's car was making a weird noise and he was pretty sure the transmission was dying. Normal things. Easy things. The kind of conversation that made Noah remember what it felt like to just be with someone without the weight of grief pressing down on every moment. When they walked out into the cool November afternoon, Arya turned to him. I know this is a lot. The job, us, everything changing at once. But Noah, you're allowed to have good things. You're allowed to want more than just survival. I'm starting to believe that, he said. Some days, anyway. That's a start. She kissed him, quick and sweet, right there on the sidewalk in broad daylight. Call me later? Definitely. Noah watched her walk away, feeling something settle in his chest. Not certainty. He wasn't sure he'd ever feel certain about anything again, but maybe acceptance. Maybe the beginning of belief that this could work. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Noah sat at his kitchen table with a pen and paper. He drew a line down the middle, writing, stay on one side and go on the other. Under stay, he wrote, security, pension, know what I'm doing, kids who need me. Under geo, he wrote, better pay, bigger impact, growth, Arya. He stared at the two columns for a long time. The logical choice was staying, the safe choice, the one that wouldn't disrupt Emma's life or force him to learn an entirely new skill set at 32, but safe wasn't the same as good. Rachel had been right about that. Noah picked up his phone and scrolled to Dr. Chen's number. Before he could talk himself out of it, he typed out a message. I'm interested. Let's talk about next steps. He hit send before his brain could catch up. 3 minutes later, his phone rang. Dr. Chen. Noah, I'm glad you reached out. I'm terrified, he admitted, but I think that means it's the right move. Terror is a good sign. Means you're taking it seriously. He could hear the smile in her voice. We'd need to make this official. Paperwork, background checks, all the fun stuff. You'd start January 6th. That gives you time to finish the semester at your school and have the holidays with Emma. January 6th, okay. There's one more thing. Before we make the final offer, I'd like you to come in and meet the team, the people you'd be working with directly. Make sure the fit is right on both sides. When? Friday, 2 o'clock? Noah thought about his schedule. He'd have to move some things around, but he could make it work. I'll be there. They talked for another 20 minutes. Logistics, expectations, the learning curve he should expect. Dr. Chen was honest about the challenges, the travel, the pressure, the fact that he'd be the new guy learning on the fly. But she was also encouraging, reminding him that she wouldn't have offered if she didn't believe he could do it. When they hung up, Noah sat in the quiet of his kitchen, feeling like he'd just jumped off a cliff and wasn't sure if he was flying or falling. His phone buzzed. Arya, did you reach out to Dr. Chen? How did you know? Lucky guess. How do you feel? Like I might throw up. Also excited. Mostly terrified. That's perfect. Congratulations, Noah. I haven't accepted yet. Meeting the team on Friday. You're going to be great. And I'm taking you out to celebrate after. No arguments. Noah smiled despite his nerves. Deal. He got up and walked down the hall to Emma's room. She was asleep, one arm flung over her head, her face peaceful in a way that made his chest ache. I'm doing this for us, he whispered. Both of us. I hope it's the right call. She didn't answer, obviously, but Noah felt better having said it out loud. Friday afternoon, he walked into Riverside's office, feeling like he was heading to his own execution. Dr. Chen met him in the lobby with a reassuring smile. They're going to love you, she said. Just be yourself. The team was waiting in a conference room, 5 people ranging from mid-20s to late 50s. Dr. Chen made introductions. Michael, the curriculum director. Lisa, who ran professional development. James, their data analyst. Keisha, their operations manager. And Tom, who handled partnerships with school districts. They asked him questions about his teaching philosophy, about how he handled difficult students, about what he thought was broken in education and how he'd fix it. Noah answered honestly. Didn't try to impress them or pretend he had all the answers. Just told them what he believed, that every kid deserved someone who gave a damn, and that systems should support teachers instead of grinding them down. An hour in, Lisa asked him about his biggest failure in the classroom. Noah didn't hesitate. Miguel Santos, kid I mentioned to Dr. Chen. I spent 3 months thinking he was lazy before I bothered to ask what was actually going on in his life. By the time I figured it out, he'd already failed most of his classes. I got him back on track eventually, but it took way longer than it should have because I made assumptions. What did you learn from that? Lisa asked. That my job isn't just teaching physics, it's seeing the whole kid, understanding their context, and that sometimes the most important thing I can do is ask questions instead of making judgments. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Michael nodded. That's good. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. They talked for another 30 minutes. By the end, Noah felt wrung out, but oddly hopeful. These people were smart, dedicated, and genuinely seemed to care about the work. This could be a good place to land. When the meeting wrapped up, Dr. Chen walked him out. "So?" she asked. "They're impressive. I'd be lucky to work with them." "The feeling's mutual. They all gave you a thumbs up." Noah felt relief and terror in equal measure. "So that's it? I'm in?" "If you want to be. I'll send over the official offer by Monday. You can take a few days to think about it, talk it over with your family. But Noah?" She paused. "I really hope you say yes. I think you're going to do great things here." Outside, the November air was sharp and cold. Noah stood on the sidewalk for a moment, letting it all sink in. This was happening. This was real. His phone rang. Arya. "How did it go?" "They offered me the job. Officially." "Noah, that's amazing. Congratulations. I'm freaking out." "Of course you are. But you're still going to accept, right?" Noah took a breath. Yeah, I think I am." "Good. Because I'm taking you to dinner tonight and we're celebrating whether you like it or not." "I have to pick up Emma. Bring her. I'd love to meet her properly." That stopped Noah cold. Meeting Emma felt significant, real in a way that changed the shape of what was happening between them. "You sure?" he asked. "Completely sure, unless you're not ready for that." "No, I think I am. Let me check with her." He hung up and immediately called Mrs. Patterson, who agreed to watch Emma for a few hours tomorrow instead. Then he texted Emma's school to let them know he'd be picking her up early. At 3:30, he pulled up to the school. Emma climbed into the back seat, her backpack nearly as big as she was. "Why'd you pick me up early?" she asked. "Because we're having dinner with someone, and I wanted to talk to you about it first." "Is it Arya?" Noah glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Yeah, how'd you know?" "You've been smiling at your phone a lot. Plus, you keep wearing nice shirts to school. It's obvious." "I wear nice shirts." "No, you don't. You wear the same 3 teacher shirts, and one of them has a coffee stain." "Fair point." "So yeah," Noah said. "It's Arya. She wants to meet you, properly. Is that okay?" Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, "Do you like her? Like, actually like her?" "I do. A lot." "More than you liked Mom?" The question hit like a fist to the gut. Noah pulled over into a parking lot, killed the engine, and turned to face his daughter. "Emma, I loved your mom more than anything. She was my best friend, and nothing about meeting Arya changes that or makes it less real." "But you like Arya too." "I do. Is that okay?" Emma chewed on her bottom lip, thinking. Mom's been gone a long time. "Yeah. And you've been sad a long time." "Yeah. So I think it's okay. If you like someone else, if she makes you happy." Noah felt tears sting his eyes. "You're amazing. You know that?" "I know." Emma grinned. "Can we get ice cream after dinner?" "Absolutely." They met Arya at a casual Italian place that had red checkered tablecloths and breadsticks that came out immediately. Arya was already there, sitting at a booth near the back. She stood when they approached, and Noah could see her nervousness in the way she smoothed down her sweater. "Hi," she said. "You must be Emma. I've heard so much about you." Emma studied her with the kind of frank assessment only 8-year-olds can pull off. "You're really pretty." Arya laughed. "Thank you. So are you." They slid into the booth, Emma next to Noah, Arya across from them. For a moment, no one knew quite what to say. Then Emma asked, "Do you like butterflies?" "I do, actually. Why?" "I'm doing a project on them. Did you know some butterflies migrate thousands of miles?" "I didn't know that. That's incredible." And just like that, they were off. Emma talked about her project, about the life cycle of monarchs, about how they use the sun to navigate. Arya listened like it was the most fascinating thing she'd ever heard, asking questions and genuinely engaging. Noah watched them, feeling something warm and terrifying expand in his chest. This could work. This could actually work. Dinner passed easily. They ordered too much food and ate too many breadsticks. Emma told Arya about school, about her friends, about the annoying boy who ate paste. Arya told Emma about running her own business, about how she'd been scared at first but figured it out as she went. "That's what my dad's doing," Emma said. "He's scared about his new job, but he's doing it anyway." Arya met Noah's eyes across the table. "Your dad is very brave." "I know." Emma took a bite of spaghetti. "Can we get ice cream now?" They did. Found a place 2 doors down that made their own gelato. Emma got some combination of chocolate and raspberry that turned her tongue purple. Arya got vanilla. Noah got coffee. Walking back to the car, Emma grabbed both their hands, swinging between them like she was 5 again. "I like her," she whispered to Noah when Arya was checking her phone. "Yeah? Yeah, she's nice, and she looks at you the way Mom used to." Noah's throat tightened. "What way is that?" "Like you're important." They dropped Arya off at her car with promises to talk tomorrow. As she walked away, Emma called after her. "Arya?" She turned back. "You should come over for dinner sometime. At our house. Dad makes really good spaghetti." Arya smiled, looking at Noah. "I'd love that." In the car heading home, Emma was quiet for a while. Then, "Dad?" "Yeah, sweetheart? I think you should take the new job. And I think you should keep seeing Arya. Because you're happy now. And I like it when you're happy." Noah reached over and squeezed her hand. "I love you, Em. Love you too." That night, after Emma was in bed, Noah pulled out his laptop. He opened the email from Dr. Chen with the official offer attached. He read through it one more time. The salary, the benefits, the start date. All of it real and official and waiting for his signature. Noah took a breath. Then he clicked reply and typed 2 words. "I accept." He hit send before fear could stop him. His phone rang immediately. "Arya, did you just do what I think you did? How did you know?" "Because I know you, and because it's about damn time." Noah laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. "I'm terrified." "Good. Now come over. We're celebrating properly." "It's almost 10. Emma's asleep." "Then come over tomorrow, Saturday. Bring Emma. We'll do something fun." "Like what?" "I don't know. We'll figure it out. That's the whole point." Noah smiled at the phone. "Okay. Tomorrow." "Noah?" "Yeah? I'm really proud of you." He hung up and sat in the quiet of his apartment, feeling the weight of the decision settle over him. In 6 weeks, his entire life would change. New job, new challenges, new possibilities. And for the first time in 4 years, that didn't feel like something to run from. It felt like something to run toward. The weeks between accepting the job and actually starting it passed in a strange blur of endings and beginnings that left Noah feeling like he was living in 2 different lives at once. December arrived cold and sharp. At school, Noah moved through his final weeks teaching with a complicated mix of relief and grief. His students knew something was different. He'd told them in early December that he'd be leaving after winter break, and their reactions ranged from genuine sadness to the kind of teenage indifference that masked deeper feelings. Miguel Santos, now a junior at State University, drove home for Thanksgiving and stopped by Noah's classroom one afternoon in early December. He'd filled out since high school, looked more confident, more sure of himself. "Heard you're leaving," Miguel said, leaning against Noah's desk. "News travels fast. Mr. Morrison told me. Said you got some fancy job with an education foundation." "Something like that." Miguel was quiet for a moment, looking around the classroom like he was seeing it for the first time in years. "This room saved my life, you know. What you did for me. Staying late, helping me figure my shit out. I wouldn't be in college without that." Noah felt his throat tighten. "You did the work, Miguel. I just showed you it was possible." "Still, I wanted to say thank you, and to tell you that whatever you're doing next, those people are lucky to have you." After Miguel left, Noah sat alone in his empty classroom for a long time, staring at the periodic table poster on the wall and the whiteboard covered in equations, and feeling the weight of what he was leaving behind. That night, Arya came over for dinner, something that had become a regular occurrence over the past month. She and Emma had developed their own relationship, independent of Noah, full of inside jokes and shared interests he sometimes couldn't follow. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. They sat around Noah's small dining table eating the spaghetti he'd promised Emma he'd make, and for a moment everything felt almost normal. like they were a family instead of three people carefully building something new from broken pieces. Dad's being sad about leaving his classroom again, Emma announced through a mouthful of pasta. I'm not being sad. You are. You get this look on your face, like when you're thinking about Mom. Arya reached across the table and squeezed his hand. It's okay to be sad about it. You're allowed to feel complicated things. I know, it's just, I keep second-guessing myself, wondering if I'm making a huge mistake. You're not, Emma said with the absolute certainty only children possess. You're doing something brave. That's different. When did you get so wise? Noah asked for what felt like the 100th time. I told you. I was born this way. After dinner, after Emma went to bed, Noah and Arya sat on the couch with glasses of wine. Neither of them were really drinking. Arya had started keeping clothes at his apartment. Just a few things, nothing dramatic. But seeing her toothbrush next to his in the bathroom still made his heart do something complicated. Talk to me, she said. Real talk. How are you actually feeling about January? Noah stared at his wine glass. Terrified. Excited. Like I'm jumping off a cliff and I have no idea if there's water at the bottom or just rocks. That's specific. I'm a physics teacher. I think in metaphors involving gravity. Arya smiled, but it faded quickly. Noah, I need to tell you something. The tone of her voice made his stomach drop. What? I've been offered a contract, a big one, with a nonprofit in Seattle. 6 months minimum, possibly longer. They want me to help them restructure their entire operation. Noah felt the words land like stones. Seattle. Yeah. When? They want me to start in February, right after you start at Riverside. The timing couldn't have been worse. Just when he was starting something new, when he needed stability and support, she'd be on the other side of the country. Are you going to take it? He asked, trying to keep his voice neutral. I don't know. It's an incredible opportunity, the kind of project I've been working toward for years, but she trailed off. But what? But you're here. Emma's here. And I don't want to leave just when we're figuring this out. Noah set down his wine glass. You should take it. Noah, I'm serious. This is what you do. You solve big problems for important organizations. You can't turn that down because of me. It's not just because of you. It's because I want to be here. With you. Building this. He looked at her, at the conflict written across her face, and felt something shift. For weeks he'd been so focused on his own fear, his own uncertainty, that he hadn't fully considered what Arya was risking by being with him. She'd built a successful career on being flexible, on going where the work took her. And now she was considering turning down a major opportunity because of a relationship that was barely 3 months old. What if we make it work, he said. What do you mean? Seattle's not that far. You could take the contract. I could visit on weekends. We could FaceTime every night. Emma and I could come out there during spring break. Arya studied him. You'd be okay with that? Long distance? I'd rather have you 3,000 miles away than not have you at all. Noah took her hand. You've spent the past 2 months telling me to take chances, to believe I deserve good things. Maybe it's time you listen to your own advice. This is different. How? Because I'm falling in love with you, Arya said quietly. And the thought of leaving right when that's happening makes me want to throw up. Noah's heart stopped. Started again. Did something arrhythmic in his chest. Say that again, he said. Which part? The falling in love part. Arya met his eyes. I'm falling in love with you, Noah Carter, with your terrible dancing and your self-doubt and the way you look at Emma like she hung the moon. I'm falling in love with all of it. Noah kissed her, pulled her close, and kissed her like he should have at the wedding, like he should have after their first dinner, like he'd wanted to every day since. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead against hers. I'm falling in love with you too, he said. Which is why you need to take the Seattle job, because I want you to have everything you've worked for, and I trust us enough to believe we can handle 6 months apart. You sure? Absolutely not, but I'm doing it anyway. Arya laughed, the sound breaking through the tension. Look at you, taking chances left and right. It's your fault you're a terrible influence. The worst. They sat there on his worn couch in his modest apartment, holding each other in the kind of silence that felt full instead of empty. Outside, December cold pressed against the windows. Inside, something warm and fragile and impossibly strong was taking root. Christmas came with the kind of chaos only an 8-year-old can generate. Emma had requested exactly 3 things: a new bike, a set of art supplies, and for Arya to spend Christmas Day with them. Noah managed the first 2 easily. The third required a phone call to Arya's parents in Oregon and some diplomatic negotiation, but she agreed. Christmas morning, the 3 of them sat around Noah's small artificial tree opening presents. Emma got her bike and her art supplies and proceeded to lose her mind with excitement. Noah got a new watch from Arya that probably cost more than his car payment and a drawing from Emma that showed the 3 of them as stick figures holding hands. He had to step into the kitchen for a minute after that one, pretending he needed to check on breakfast. Arya found him there, staring out the window with tears in his eyes. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just overwhelmed, I guess." "Good overwhelmed or bad overwhelmed?" "Good. Definitely good." He turned to face her. "Thank you for being here, for all of this. There's nowhere else I'd rather be." They spent the day doing nothing and everything. Watched Christmas movies, made too much food, built Emma's bike together, which required 2 YouTube tutorials and more cursing than was probably appropriate for Christmas. But by the end of the day, when Emma was exhausted and happy, and Arya was asleep on the couch with her head on Noah's shoulder, he felt something he hadn't felt in 4 years. Complete. New Year's Eve arrived with its usual mix of forced celebration and genuine reflection. Noah had never been big on New Year's. The idea of arbitrary fresh starts had always seemed like wishful thinking, but this year felt different. This year, the calendar turning actually meant something. Arya had gone to Seattle for a week to scout apartments and meet with the nonprofit's leadership team. She'd be back January 2nd, just in time to help him prepare for his first day at Riverside. In the meantime, Noah was alone with Emma and his thoughts, both of which were overwhelming in their own ways. On New Year's Eve, after Emma was asleep, Noah sat in his living room with the TV on mute showing the countdown in Times Square. His phone buzzed with a text from Arya. "Missing you. How's your last few days of freedom?" Terrifying, also exciting. Mostly terrifying. That's becoming your catchphrase. It's an accurate representation of my mental state. You're going to be amazing. Stop doubting yourself. Easier said than done. I know. But I believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. That counts for something. Noah smiled at the screen. It counts for everything. One more thing. I found an apartment in Seattle, month-to-month lease. Want to see pictures? She sent 3 photos. A modern 1-bedroom with big windows and hardwood floors. Not huge, but bright and clean and exactly the kind of place Arya would choose. It's perfect. When do you move in? End of January, which gives us a few more weeks before I have to leave. We'll make them count. Damn right we will. Now go to sleep. Big week ahead. Yes, ma'am. I love you, Noah. There it was again. Those 3 words that still felt new enough to make his chest tight. I love you too. January 6th arrived with gray skies and the kind of cold that went straight through your coat. Noah woke up at 5:30, even though he didn't need to be at Riverside until 9. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his mind running through everything that could go wrong. What if he couldn't handle the workload? What if the other staff realized immediately that he was in over his head? What if he'd made a catastrophic mistake and blown up his entire life for nothing? Dad, you're spiraling again. He looked over to find Emma standing in his doorway in her pajamas, looking sleepy and wise beyond her years. How did you know? Because you have that look. Like you're trying to solve a math problem in your head. Can't solve this one with math. Emma padded over and climbed into bed next to him, something she hadn't done since she was 5. You're going to be great. Everyone at the new place is going to love you just like your students love you. My students don't all love me. The good ones do, and those are the ones that matter. She paused. Are you scared? Terrified. That's okay. Mom used to say that being scared means you're doing something important. Noah felt his throat close up. She said that? Yeah, when I was little and scared about starting kindergarten. She said brave people get scared too. They just don't let it stop them. He pulled his daughter close, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo and wondering when she'd gotten so smart. Thank you, Em. You're welcome. Can we have pancakes for breakfast? Absolutely. At 8:30, wearing his best suit and a tie Arya had insisted he buy, Noah stood in front of the mirror, giving himself a pep talk that felt ridiculous but necessary. Emma and Arya, who'd come over early for moral support, watched from the doorway. "You look very professional," Arya said. "I look like I'm going to throw up." "That too, but mostly professional." Emma hugged him tight. "Good luck, Dad. You've got this." The drive to Riverside's office felt longer than it should have. Noah parked in the visitor lot. He'd get an employee parking pass later, and sat in his car for a full 5 minutes doing breathing exercises he'd learned from a YouTube video. Then he got out, walked into the building, and started his first day. Dr. Chen met him in the lobby with a coffee and a smile. "Welcome to the team. Ready to change some lives?" "As ready as I'll ever be." She walked him through the building, introducing him to people whose names he immediately forgot. Michael from curriculum, Lisa from professional development, James and his data spreadsheets, Keisha and her organized chaos, Tom and his endless phone calls with superintendents. They gave him an office, small but with a window, and a laptop and a stack of reading materials that would take months to get through. Dr. Chen spent the first 2 hours walking him through current projects, upcoming deadlines, the general rhythm of how things worked. "Don't try to learn everything at once," she advised. "Give yourself permission to be confused for a while. Ask questions. We'd rather answer the same question 10 times than have you struggle in silence." By lunch, Noah's head was spinning. He sat in the break room with a sandwich he'd packed that morning, trying to process everything he'd learned and feeling completely overwhelmed. Lisa found him there. "First day survival check. How are you holding up?" "I have no idea what I'm doing." "Perfect. That means you're paying attention." She sat down across from him. "Want some advice?" "Desperately." "Stop trying to be perfect. None of us know what we're doing half the time. We just figure it out as we go and try not to mess up too badly." "That's supposed to be reassuring?" "It's supposed to be honest. You're going to make mistakes, Noah. Everyone does. The question is whether you learn from them or let them paralyze you." It was exactly what he needed to hear. The afternoon was spent in meetings, planning sessions for upcoming workshops, discussions about curriculum development, a call with a superintendent from a district 3 states away who was considering implementing their program. Noah mostly listened, taking notes and trying to keep up. But toward the end of the day, during a meeting about teacher retention strategies, he found himself speaking up. "What if we approached it differently?" he said. "Instead of trying to fix the teachers who are struggling, what if we focused on creating systems that prevent the struggle in the first place?" The room went quiet. Noah immediately regretted opening his mouth. Then Dr. Chen smiled. "Keep talking." He did. Laid out an idea about proactive support structures, about catching problems before they became crises, about building community among teachers so they weren't fighting battles alone. Michael was nodding. Lisa was taking notes. Even Tom, who'd seemed half asleep, was paying attention. "That's good," Dr. Chen said when he finished. "Really good. Let's develop that further." Noah drove home that evening feeling wrung out, but oddly energized. He'd survived. More than that, he'd contributed, had an idea that people actually seemed to value. Arya and Emma were waiting at his apartment with Chinese takeout and congratulations. "How was it?" Arya asked, kissing him as he walked through the door. "Overwhelming. Terrifying. Also kind of great?" "That's my boy. Taking chances and not completely falling apart." They ate dinner together, the 3 of them, and Noah told them about his day, about the office and the meetings, and the moment when he'd shared his idea and people had actually listened. Emma beamed with pride. "See? I told you they'd love you." "One day doesn't mean much, Em. It means everything. It means you did it." Later, after Emma was in bed, Noah and Arya sat on his couch in the quiet. "I'm proud of you," Arya said. "I know this was scary, but you showed up anyway." "I learned that from you." "Nah, you had it in you all along. I just helped you remember." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Arya spoke again, her voice careful. "I'm leaving for Seattle on the 28th, 2 weeks from Friday." Noah had known it was coming, but hearing the actual date made it real in a way that hurt. "That soon?" "The contract starts February 1st. I need time to settle in, get oriented." She turned to face him. but I'm coming back the first weekend of March, and you and Emma are coming out there for spring break, and we're going to FaceTime every single night. This isn't goodbye, Noah. It's just different for a while. I know, doesn't make it easier. No, it doesn't. The next 2 weeks passed too quickly. Noah settled into his routine at Riverside, slowly finding his footing. He made mistakes, sent an email to the wrong person, completely misunderstood a data set, showed up to a meeting on the wrong day, but each time his colleagues helped him course correct without judgment. He started to believe he could actually do this. Evenings were spent with Arya and Emma, the three of them cramming in as much time together as possible before Arya had to leave. They went ice skating even though none of them were particularly good at it. They had a marathon movie night where Emma fell asleep halfway through and they carried her to bed together like they'd been doing it for years. They were building something real and lasting and worth the distance that was coming. The night before Arya left for Seattle, they had dinner at her apartment, the one she'd been renting in the city and would be giving up at the end of the month. Emma was with Mrs. Patterson for the evening, giving them space to say goodbye properly. Arya made pasta that was slightly overcooked, and they opened wine that was probably too expensive for a Tuesday. They sat at her small dining table and tried to pretend this was just another dinner, not the last one they'd have for weeks. I'm going to miss this, Arya said. You, Emma, these quiet nights. We'll have them again. This is just temporary. I know, but it still sucks. Yeah, it really does. After dinner, they moved to the couch. Arya curled into his side and Noah wrapped his arms around her, breathing in the scent of her shampoo and trying to memorize the feeling of her against him. Thank you, she said after a while. For what? For not asking me to stay. For supporting me even though this is hard. You did the same for me, with Riverside. It's what people who love each other do. People who love each other, Arya repeated. I like the sound of that. Me too. She tilted her head up, kissing him slowly, and Noah lost himself in it. In her. In the certainty that whatever distance separated them, this was real enough to survive it. The next morning, Noah and Emma went to the airport to see Arya off. Emma had made her a card, construction paper and markers and glitter that had gotten everywhere, that said, "Come back soon," in wobbly letters. Arya hugged her tight. I will, I promise. And you can call me any time, okay? Even if it's just to tell me about your day. Okay. Emma's voice was small. Hey. Arya crouched down to her level. Your dad and I love each other, and I love you too. That doesn't change just because I'm in a different city. Got it? Emma nodded, tears in her eyes. Then it was Noah's turn. He held Arya close, neither of them wanting to let go. 6 months, she whispered. We can do this. I know, doesn't make it easier. Nothing worth having is easy. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just didn't notice because you were busy being sad. Noah laughed despite himself, recognizing his daughter's words coming back at him. I love you. I love you too. Now let me go before I start crying and ruin my makeup. He released her, and she grabbed her carry-on and headed toward security. At the last moment, she turned back and waved. Noah and Emma waved back until she disappeared from view. On the drive home, Emma was quiet. You okay, sweetheart? Noah asked. I wish she didn't have to go. Me too. But she's coming back, right? Absolutely. And in the meantime, we're going to visit her. Remember? Spring break in Seattle. Will it be different when she comes back? Noah thought about that. Maybe. But different isn't always bad. Sometimes it's just different. Emma seemed to accept this. Dad? Yeah? I think Mom would like Arya. I think she'd be happy you found her. Noah had to pull over, had to park on the side of the road and take a breath because the words hit him somewhere deep. You think so? I know so. Mom wanted you to be happy, and Arya makes you happy. He reached over and pulled Emma into a hug, holding his daughter and letting himself believe that maybe she was right, that Sarah, wherever she was, would want this for him, would want him to live instead of just survive. The months that followed developed their own rhythm. Noah threw himself into work at Riverside, traveling to schools across 3 states, observing classrooms, talking to teachers about their challenges and their victories. The work was hard and demanding and occasionally frustrating, But it was also deeply rewarding in ways his classroom teaching had never been. He saw the ripple effects, saw teachers implementing strategies his team had developed, saw student engagement improve, saw exhausted educators remember why they'd chosen this profession in the first place. Evenings were for Emma and for FaceTime calls with Arya that sometimes lasted hours. They'd talk about their days, about Emma's latest project, about the challenges of long distance and the countdown to spring break. "Only 3 more weeks," Arya said one night in late February. "Then you and Emma are coming out here and I'm taking a whole week off." "A whole week? Can your business survive without you?" "It better. I've been training my team to handle things. Time to see if it worked." March arrived with the first hints of spring. Noah and Emma flew to Seattle over her school break, and Arya met them at the airport with flowers for Emma and a kiss for Noah that made his toes curl. They spent the week exploring the city, Pike Place Market, and the Space Needle, and ferry rides across Puget Sound. Arya showed them her office, introduced them to her team, and Noah saw her in her element, confident and capable, and completely in control. But the best moments were the quiet ones. The 3 of them cooking dinner together in Arya's small apartment, walking along the waterfront while Emma ran ahead pointing at boats, curled up on the couch watching movies and existing in the same space. On their last night, after Emma was asleep in Arya's guest room, Noah and Arya stood on her balcony looking out at the city lights. "I don't want to go back tomorrow," Noah admitted. "I know, but you have to. Work. Emma's school. Real life." "When does your contract end?" "End of July, assuming they don't extend it." "And then?" "Then I come home. Back to the city. Back to you and Emma and whatever we're building." Noah turned to face her. "Move in with us." "What?" "When you come back. Don't get another apartment. Move in with us. It's not much. My place is way smaller than this, but it's home. And I want you there." Arya stared at him. "Noah, that's a big step." "I know. But we've been doing this long-distance thing for 2 months, and every day without you sucks. Emma misses you, I miss you, and when your contract is up, I don't want to waste any more time pretending we're not building a life together." "You're sure? Emma's okay with this?" "We talked about it. She's the one who suggested it, actually. Said you should have your own room in our apartment so you don't have to keep going back and forth." Arya laughed, tears in her eyes. "Your daughter is smarter than both of us." "So is that a yes?" "That's absolutely a yes." They kissed on her balcony under Seattle's cloudy sky, and Noah felt something settle in his chest, a certainty that this was right, that they were right. The months between March and July crawled and flew simultaneously. Noah continued to grow into his role at Riverside, taking on more responsibility and even leading some training sessions himself. Dr. Chen pulled him aside in May to tell him he was exceeding expectations, that she'd known he was the right choice. Emma finished 3rd grade with straight A's and a special recognition for her butterfly project. She talked to Arya on video chat at least 3 times a week, updating her on school drama and friend dynamics with the kind of detail usually reserved for best friends. And Arya wrapped up her contract in Seattle, successfully restructuring the nonprofit's entire operation and training their team to maintain the systems she'd built. Her client tried to extend her contract for another 6 months, offering significantly more money, but she turned them down. "I'm going home," she told them. "I have people waiting for me." July 28th, Noah and Emma picked Arya up from the airport. She had 3 suitcases and a carry-on and looked exhausted and beautiful. Emma launched herself at Arya the moment she cleared security. "You're really back. I'm really back, for good this time." They helped her move into Noah's apartment the next day. It was cramped, her belongings barely fit, and they had to get creative with storage. But it felt right, like puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. That night, the 3 of them sat around the dinner table eating pizza and talking about everything and nothing. Emma told Arya about summer camp. Arya told them about her flight and her last week in Seattle. Noah just listened, feeling grateful for this strange little family they'd assembled from broken pieces and second chances. A year later, almost to the day after they'd first met at the wedding, Noah found himself standing in another ballroom. This one was smaller than Marcus and Jennifer's venue, but no less beautiful. Soft lighting, elegant decorations, people he actually knew filling the space. It was the Riverside Initiative's annual gala, a fundraiser and celebration that Dr. Chen had somehow convinced him to help organize. He stood near the entrance in a tuxedo that actually fit. Arya had insisted on taking him to a real tailor, watching guests arrive. Emma appeared at his side in a navy blue dress, looking far too grown up for 9 years old. "This is fancy," she observed. "It is. You doing okay?" "I'm great. Can I have some of that chocolate thing they're serving?" "After dinner?" "That's what you always say." "Because it's always true." She grinned and disappeared into the crowd, probably hunting for the appetizer table. Noah felt arms wrap around him from behind. He turned to find Arya, stunning in a deep green dress that reminded him of the one she'd worn to the wedding. "You clean up nice," she said. "I had a good teacher." "How are you feeling? Nervous about the presentation?" Noah was supposed to give a brief talk later about his first year at Riverside, about the impact of their teacher development programs. Public speaking had never been his strength, but Dr. Chen had insisted. Terrified, he admitted. Also excited. Mostly terrified. That's becoming your catchphrase. It's an accurate representation of my mental state. Arya laughed, and Noah pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For that dance. A year ago. For taking a chance on some random guy who didn't belong. You belong more than you knew." She looked up at him. "And for the record, I'd do it again in a heartbeat." The evening unfolded beautifully. Dinner was served, speeches were given, and when it was Noah's turn to speak, he walked to the podium with shaking hands and a racing heart. He talked about his journey from classroom teacher to curriculum specialist, about the fear of leaving behind what was comfortable and familiar, about the incredible team at Riverside who'd supported him through every mistake and celebrated every victory. But mostly he talked about impact, about how one person taking a chance, whether that was a teacher staying late to help a struggling student, or a woman asking a stranger to dance, or someone accepting a job that terrified them, could ripple outward in ways you couldn't predict or measure. "A year ago," he said, "I was stuck, going through the motions, convinced that safety was the same as happiness. And then someone saw something in me I couldn't see in myself. Someone believed I was capable of more than I thought possible." His eyes found Arya in the crowd. She smiled, tears on her cheeks. "This work we do at Riverside, it's about creating those moments for teachers, showing them they're capable of more, giving them the tools and support to take chances. Because when teachers grow, students benefit. When educators feel valued and equipped, entire communities transform." The room was silent, everyone listening. "So thank you," Noah continued, "to Dr. Chen for taking a chance on me, to my colleagues who've had endless patience, to my daughter Emma for being braver than I'll ever be, and to Arya, who saw someone worth believing in when I'd forgotten how to believe in myself." He stepped away from the podium to applause, his hands still shaking but his heart full. Later, when the formal program ended and the dancing began, Arya found him near the edge of the room. "Dance with me?" she asked. Noah smiled, remembering another ballroom, another invitation. "I'm still not very good at it." "I don't care. Dance with me anyway." They moved onto the floor, and Noah's hands found their familiar places. Left hand on her waist, right hand in hers. They swayed to music he barely heard, lost in each other and the moment. "You know what today is?" Arya asked. "The gala?" "It's exactly 1 year since the wedding. Since I walked into that ballroom and saw you sitting there looking like you'd rather be anywhere else." Noah thought about that. About the man he'd been a year ago, broken, scared, stuck in a life that felt safe but empty. About everything that had changed since. "Best decision I ever made," he said. "Accepting that dance. Best decision I ever made was asking." They moved together, more comfortable now than they'd been that first night, but still imperfect. Noah still occasionally stepped on her toes. Arya still had to guide him through the more complicated turns. But it worked. They worked. Emma appeared beside them, grabbing both their hands. "Can I dance too?" "Of course," Arya said, making room. So the three of them danced together in the middle of the ballroom, laughing and moving and being together. Noah looked at his daughter, growing up so fast it made his heart ache, and at Arya, who'd given him permission to want more than just survival, and felt something he'd thought was lost forever. Hope, joy, the bone-deep certainty that despite everything he'd lost, despite all the fear and uncertainty, Life could still surprise you with its generosity. The music shifted into something slower, and Emma ran off to find the dessert table she'd been eyeing all night. Noah pulled Arya close, their bodies fitting together like they'd been designed for exactly this. "I love you," he said. "I love you too. Move in with me, officially. Let's find a bigger place, somewhere that fits all of us properly." "Noah Carter, are you asking me to take another leap of faith?" "I'm asking you to build a life with us, with me and Emma. No more halfway measures. All in." Arya pulled back slightly, studying his face. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." "Then yes, absolutely yes." They kissed there in the middle of the dance floor, surrounded by colleagues and friends and the life Noah had built from the rubble of loss. When they broke apart, both smiling like idiots, he saw Dr. Chen watching from across the room. She raised her glass in a silent toast, approval written across her face. The evening wound down eventually. Guests filtered out. Emma fell asleep in a chair waiting for them to leave, and Noah and Arya stood in the emptying ballroom looking at what remained. "You did good tonight," Arya said. "The speech was perfect." "I was terrified." "I know, but you did it anyway. That's what matters." Noah thought about the year that had passed, about accepting the job at Riverside and surviving the learning curve, about Arya's 6 months in Seattle and the long-distance calls that had kept them connected, about Emma growing up and adjusting to having Arya in their lives with a grace that constantly amazed him. Nothing had been smooth, nothing had been perfect, but it had been real, messy and complicated, and absolutely worth every terrifying moment. "What are you thinking about?" Arya asked. "How one dance changed everything." "It wasn't just the dance, it was you being willing to take the chance." "We both took chances." "Yeah, we did." "What?" They stood there in the quiet ballroom, holding each other and watching the cleaning crew start breaking down tables. Emma stirred in her chair, and Noah went to wake her gently. "Time to go home, sweetheart." "Okay." She was half asleep, her words slurred. "Did you have fun, Dad?" "I did. Best night in a long time." "Good. You deserve to be happy." He carried her out to the car, Arya walking beside them, and drove through the quiet city streets to the apartment that would soon be too small for all of them. They'd start looking for a bigger place soon, somewhere with a room for Emma and a home office for Arya, and maybe even a small yard. But tonight, they went home to what they had. Put Emma to bed, changed into comfortable clothes, sat together on the couch that had witnessed so many conversations and confessions and quiet moments. "I'm glad you asked me to dance," Noah said into the darkness. "I'm glad you said yes," Arya replied. And there, in the small apartment that had become home, surrounded by the life they were building together, one brave choice at a time, Noah Carter finally understood what it meant to not just survive, but to truly live. The dance had been the beginning, but this messy, imperfect, beautiful life with people who loved him, and work that mattered, and a future full of possibility. This was what happened when you stopped being afraid and started believing you deserved good things. One dance had changed everything, but it was all the moments after, the choices to keep showing up, to keep taking chances, to keep building something worth having, that had created this. And as Noah drifted off to sleep with Arya's head on his shoulder and the knowledge that Emma was safe down the hall, he felt something he hadn't felt in 4 long years. Complete.